Chapter 46:11. In front of the main gate of the temple, hundreds of three-eyed seven-star destiny people surrounded the gate of the temple, while in front of the gate of the temple, a woman was wrapped in endless flame chains. The woman was no other than Yu Qingxian. At this time, Yu Qingxian's rainbow flame flowed around her, forming a heavy shield and wrapping herself to resist the erosion of the flame chain. Outside the gate of the temple, the strong men of the three-eyed clan tied their hands and recited the sutra. What they recited was the Great Brahma Sutra. As their chanting sounded, the temple trembled, endless flames rose, and runes flowed into the chain tied to Yu Qingxian. With the injection of runes, the chain was tightened rapidly, and Yu Qingxian's defense space was constantly compressed. "Stupid Terran, give up resistance and let us plant slave seals. This is your only way out. We will give you to the Son of God. Whether you are dead or alive depends on your creation." The strong man of the three-eyed clan drank coldly. Seeing that Yu Qingxian had been trapped by chains, their chanting slowed down slightly. It was obvious that they wanted to stay alive. Yu Qingxian was trapped, shocked and angry. She never thought that the temple was a trap. When she was close to the temple, countless chains suddenly broke out in the temple. She had a chance to avoid those chains, but I don't know where these three-eyed strongmen suddenly appeared. They recited the sutra and formed a flame net between heaven and earth. The flame net was combined with the flame chain of the temple and locked her in an instant. There was no chance of escape at all. "Stupid guy, if you are so stubborn, don't blame us for being cruel." Puff, puff. The strong man of the Three-Eye Clan had just finished, and before there was any action, the sound of the dragon chanted loudly. A dragon tail swept away, and all the strong men of the Three-Eye Clan turned into blood fog in an instant. Dragon dust. When Yu Qingxian was trapped, he suddenly saw that all the strong men of the Three-Eye Clan were killed. Then he saw the figure of Long Chen. He was overjoyed. "Don't come here. This temple is a trap." Seeing the dragon dust coming, Yu Qingxian screamed. At this time, Long Chen has come to Yu Qingxian. Long Chen reaches out to grab the chain in front of Yu Qingxian. With a loud bang, Long Chen snorts, and is shocked to fly far away. Boom, a building was smashed by the dragon dust. The huge force shook the dragon dust's eyes with Venus and almost spewed blood. "Long Chen, run, they must have someone." Yu Qingxian shouted when he saw Long Chen flying. Click! When Yu Qingxian was distracted, a shield in front of her burst into pieces. She had only had time to open 3 shields before, but now there are only 2. The chain of fire made her breathing difficult, her face pale, and she couldn't even speak. Long Chen was thrown away by the chain of fire. He was furious and saw Yu Qingxian trapped. At that moment, the stars around him were moving, and he was about to rush up again. "Fool, use your right hand." At this time, the voice of the heaven and earth tripod came. Long Chen was stunned and suddenly thought that there was a pattern of exquisite blood magnolia on his right hand. Buzz, when Long Chen's right hand grasped the flame chain, the heart of Long Chen's hand was hot, and the exquisite blood magnolia pattern lit up in an instant. Boom, all the chains that bound Yu Qingxian burst open. Yu Qingxian and Long Chen were overjoyed. Long Chen grabbed Yu Qingxian and was about to pull her away from the trap. Suddenly, the whole temple trembled, and the space around Long Chen and Yu Qingxian collapsed. Long Chen was shocked. Without any response, he was sucked in by a huge vortex. Long Chen and Yu Qingxian suddenly appeared in a hall. Long Chen didn't have time to look around and took Yu Qingxian and asked with concern, "Qingxian, are you okay? Are you hurt?" Yu Qingxian looks at Long Chen with concern. Previously, Long Chen rushed to her recklessly. Yu Qingxian moves tenderly and hugs Long Chen. Long Chen was stunned at first, and then tightly held Yu Qingxian in his arms. Yu Qingxian was fine. His hanging heart fell to the ground. "Dragon dust, when can you be rational? Don't be so reckless. You looked so scary just now." Yu Qingxian buried his head in Long Chen's arms. His voice choked and tears couldn't stop flowing down. She shouted for Long Chen to leave. Although she knew that Long Chen would not leave, at least he should know that this was a trap. But at that moment, like a madman, Long Chen ignored everything and rushed forward with all his life. Yu Qingxian was moved and full of fear. In fact, I'm usually quite calm, but I don't know what's wrong. When I see you in danger, my brain turns into wooden pimples. Long Chen scratched his head and felt embarrassed. In fact, as he said, when he saw Yu Qingxian trapped, all his wisdom and calculations disappeared from Long Chen's mind. He just wanted to save her and didn't want anything else. If it weren't for Qian Kunding's reminder, he was still thinking of working hard with the chain. Now think about it, he is really a big fool. After listening to Long Chen's words, Yu Qingxian bit cherry lips. When she looked at Long Chen, her beautiful eyes were full of tenderness. In her world, Long Chen was all she had. They had time to look around. They were surprised to find that this was a sacred and solemn hall. Buzz, suddenly, the whole hall slowly lit up. On the green bricks, stone columns and dome of the hall, countless runes lit up like stars, illuminating the whole hall. Long Chen turned his head and looked straight ahead. They saw a statue. When they saw the statue, Long Chen was shocked. It's her. It was a statue of a woman. She sat on the lotus throne, put her hands in front of her, palms up, and 10 fingers like white jade, blooming like a lotus, seemed to hold something. Her eyes are closed and sacred. Although she is only a statue, she can't hide her peerless beauty. She is like a female emperor standing on the world of mortals. All sentient beings can only worship it. This statue has never been seen by Long Chen, but Long Chen has seen her real person and once talked to her. She is so affectionate and gentle. Looking at the statue, I don't know why. Long Chen's heart is infinitely sour. He doesn't want to see the statue. What he wants to see is herself. But the moment he saw the statue, a beautiful dream in his heart was broken. He knew that the figure might never come back. Buzz, at this time, Long Chen's palm trembled, and the exquisite pattern of blood magnolia suddenly broke away from Long Chen's palm and slowly floated to the palm of the statue. Suddenly, the palm of the statue trembled, and a fresh and exquisite blood magnolia appeared between his hands. The fresh blood magnolia began to burn, the golden flame reflected in every corner of the hall, and then the sacred and solemn chanting sounded. It's the great Brahma Sutra. At that moment, the hearts of Long Chen and Yu Qingxian jumped wildly. www.mylovenovel.com, the fastest update of the web novel. Chapter 46:12 The voice of chanting scriptures resounded from heaven and earth. It was a woman's voice, gentle but solemn, soft but strong, arrogant and humble. This is the first volume of Brahma Sutra, but how is it different from what we have learned? Yu Qingxian's pretty face was full of shock. Like Long Chen, she has also practiced the great Brahma Sutra. Although she obtained different channels, the scriptures they learned are the same. But today, the sound of chanting scriptures is no longer pure solemnity, but countless changes. The sound of scriptures is cadenced, sometimes high, sometimes low, sometimes majestic and sometimes gentle. Even in a scripture, there are hundreds of changes. Sometimes even the breath of enunciation is changeable and unpredictable. Long Chen was surprised at first, and then immediately concentrated with Yu Qingxian and listened attentively to the chanting sound. Suddenly, in addition to Long Chen and Yu Qingxian, there was a girl in the hall. It was Huolinger. She heard the sound of chanting sutras and flew out of the chaotic space to listen to the sound of chanting sutras with Long Chen. Huoling, as a flame spirit, you don't need to listen to the scriptures. It's useless to you. You are responsible for remembering the impact of changes in the scale on the power of fire. Well, verify it later. Dragon Dust hurriedly preached to Huolinger. Hearing the sound of chanting sutras, Long Chen suddenly understood that this was the real Brahma Sutra, and what they learned was only entry level. In the past, when Long Chen recited the great Brahma Sutra, he used the same tone, and the breath did not change from beginning to end. Now Long Chen Kai understands that every change in tone, breath, syllable and even mouth shape will produce countless different effects when reciting the great Brahma Sutra. Long Chen can't understand such a profound meaning for the time being, so he has to try his best to remember it now and understand it slowly when he has a chance in the future. Yu Qingxian and Long Chen hold the same idea. They can remember as much as they can. Later, they confirm each other and can get more harvest. Now, with the addition of Huolinger, Long Chen is more relieved. Huolinger may not understand the scriptures, but she is the body of fire. She is most sensitive to the fluctuation of fire between heaven and earth after the change of scriptures. This is where Long Chen and Yu Qingxian can't catch up with her. With the sound of chanting through the hall, Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3. Long Chen felt like a dry earth for many years, and finally got the moisture of rain and absorbed it with all his strength. Each scripture sounded like thunder in Long Chen's mind. In Long Chen's soul, mysterious symbols were depicted one after another. With the emergence of these symbols, Long Chen seemed to see an unprecedented space. In the past, the dragon dust was like a frog at the bottom of a well. With the sound of chanting, the dragon dust saw a broader sky. Every scripture and syllable is the ultimate embodiment of the profound meaning of the fire system between heaven and earth. At this time, Long Chen finally understands why the man in white can hit him hard in the air. As the Heaven and Earth tripod said, the great Brahma Sutra he practiced is just the tip of its iceberg. Now, Long Chen can finally benefit from its panorama. Hoo-hoo! When the great Brahma Sutra was recited to the 5th volume, Long Chen, Yu Qingxian and Huolinger sealed their hands at the same time. This was not their intention to seal, but they began to seal involuntarily with the sound of chanting. Strangely, the three people's printing methods are completely different. Yu Qingxian's printing method is extremely elegant and graceful. Her fingers bloom like lotus flowers. The Taoist fire runes flow in the palm of her hand, reflecting her beautiful face. The breath on her body is somewhat similar to the statue. Huolinger's seal method is very slow and looks very clumsy, but after each seal, a strange symbol will emerge in her palm. There is magma flowing in the symbol, which contains magnificent power. Once triggered, it will destroy the sky and earth. Yu Qingxian can produce 7 or 8 seals in every breath, while Huolinger can only produce 1 seal in every breath. On the other side of dragon dust, his hands are as fast as lightning, his wrists rotate, and 10 fingers cast endless illusions. Thousands of seals can be produced in a breath. Dragon dust's 10 fingers danced uncontrollably, and endless symbols were stirred between dragon dust's hands, gradually forming a distorted space. In that twisted space, endless flames form a chain of Taoist order. These chains are of different colors. Each chain represents a flame. As Long Chen's hands rapidly seal, countless chains are constantly broken in the twisted space. After being broken, they heal again, and then broken again. At this time, Long Chen has fallen into a state of selflessness. He has no way to listen to the scriptures carefully, and everything is completely out of control. Boom! As the scriptures continued to be recited, the printing of Long Chen's hands became faster and faster, and the space between his hands became larger and larger. The endless chain of order in the space was constantly broken, reorganized and broken. Destruction, rebirth, redestruction, rebirth, order is used to break, and the broken order will be reorganized again and again. Can all this really be changed by one person's strength? The Heaven and Earth tripod silently looked at the dragon dust and gave a long sigh. In this sigh, it was helpless, but it also seemed to have a trace of expectation. Boom! Suddenly, the twisted space in Long Chen's hand burst open, and then the sacred and solemn chanting voice in the whole hall suddenly stopped. Dragon dust, what's the matter with you? Yu Qingxian suddenly exclaimed, holding Long Chen in his hands. At this time, Long Chen's hands were covered with flesh and blood. His eyes were full of cold, killing intention, as if the devil in hell woke up and his violent will to destroy made Yu Qingxian feel endless fear. With Yu Qingxian's call, the violent will to destroy in Long Chen's eyes gradually disappeared. He looked at his hands strangely and suddenly found that he couldn't remember what had happened before. What volume is the Great Brahman Sutra? Dragon Dust Q&A, Volume 7. Yu Qingxian hurried. Depressed, I've been distracted since Volume 5. I didn't remember anything. You'll teach me later. Long Chen said with a bitter smile. He didn't want to understand. He would suddenly walk like a sleepwalker, and his head was blank. Kaka kaka. Suddenly a sound came. Long Chen and Yu Qingxian were shocked and hurried to look at the statue. There were countless cracks in the statue, and then the whole hall began to vibrate. The hall is going to collapse. Yu Qingxian exclaimed. Just then, a roar came. Damn guy, dare to destroy the temple and die for me. www.milovenovel.com, the fastest update of the web novel. Chapter 46:13, Who is it? Yu Qingxian was surprised. From that voice, she heard the violent flame will. At the same time, when he pronounced, he attached the tone of the great Brahma Sutra. He is a disciple of Brahma. If I guess right, this is also his goal. The temple is controlled by the great Brahma, and the purpose is to attract outsiders. There is a barrier set by the great Brahma outside the temple. Once outsiders touch it, they will throw themselves into the net. Hearing that sound, Dragon Dust's face was exposed. Long Chen finally understood why he was summoned to find the body. He couldn't get in without the exquisite blood magnolia map. Although Long Chen doesn't know what's going on, he knows that there must be some cause and effect involved, otherwise he won't guide him all the way here. The outer border is a unique seal of Brahma. He has the will of Brahma. When Long Chen saved Yu Qingxian, he felt its horror. It is an irresistible force. At least for now, he has no power to shake it. As a disciple of Brahma, the man in white probably took this place as a training place, but he was not in a hurry to enter here because he knew that no one could break the seal except him. Therefore, he arranged drug slaves to guard around and quietly wait for prey to enter the net, while he slaughtered giant animals around to collect precious drugs, and was also searching for the trace of dragon dust. But he never dreamed that dragon dust came to the temple and entered the temple. What shall we do now? Yu Qingxian asked. At this time, the main hall began to crack. It is estimated that it will collapse soon. There is a boundary of Brahma outside, and there are men in white. They are trapped here. Kaka kaka. At this time, the statue cracked and scattered, and the golden lotus throne collapsed. At the moment of the collapse of the lotus throne, the golden light bloomed and the sacred light illuminated the whole hall. This is. When Long Chen saw the golden light, he couldn't help but look unbelievable. It was a golden lotus seed. While the dragon dust was still stunned, the golden lotus seeds in the dragon dust chaotic space suddenly trembled, as if they were attracted, and even flew out of the chaotic space automatically. Buzz, the two golden lotus seeds are fused together. The golden lotus seeds change from emptiness to reality and from reality to emptiness. At the same time, countless scriptures flow around the lotus seeds, forming a chain of order. It's the scripture of the great Brahma Sutra. Dragon Dust recognized that the chain of order was actually composed of the scriptures of the great Brahma Sutra. Buzz, suddenly, the golden lotus seed disappeared and returned to the sky over the chaotic space, just like a golden sun hanging in the sky. The whole chaotic space became more vibrant because of it. Even the dragon dust felt the breath of law in the chaotic space. If the previous chaotic space was a disordered world, when the golden lotus seed returned, the chaotic space seemed to have its own law of order. Boom! When the golden lotus seeds of dragon dust took away the golden lotus seeds in the lotus throne, the whole hall decayed and collapsed in an instant. Dead? At this time, the space was distorted, and a white figure appeared out of thin air. He was wrapped in flame and hit the dragon dust with a fist. This person is the man in white. At this time, his face is ferocious, like a fierce ghost, as if dragon dust had just planed his ancestral grave, and his face is full of resentment. Blow your dog's head today. Seeing the man in white killed, the killing intention of dragon dust was ignited in an instant, and his whole body was covered with scales. For the first time, he summoned the divine ring, the star sea trembled, the dragon chanted and shook the sky, and dragon dust directly erupted into the strongest power. Boom! Long Chen smashed with a fist and made a loud noise. Long Chen and the man in white snorted at the same time and flew out upside down. Dare to destroy my place of trial and steal my precious treasure. You shameless thieves, go to hell. The man in white saw the collapse of the statue of God and the disappearance of the lotus throne. At that moment, his face was distorted and his hands were quickly printed. At the same time, he recited scriptures and the whole hall disappeared instantly. At the same time, at that moment, Long Chen saw the outside world. At the periphery of the hall, a transparent cage appeared. Countless flame chains have firmly locked here. Long Chen and others have become birds in the cage. Through the gap of the bird cage, the dragon dust saw that the broken temples outside had disappeared, and they all turned into dust. When the dragon dust took away the golden lotus seeds, the world seemed no longer able to withstand the erosion of years and turned into dust. Boom! Suddenly, the space in the cage was twisted and formed by the aggregation of fire arrows. At the moment of the aggregation of fire arrows, Long Chen felt his soul tremble. Long Chen dared not neglect it. The thunder wings behind him trembled like a lightning towards a man in white. Cloud dragon offering claws, the sound of dragon singing was loud. A covered dragon claw poked out from the vision behind the dragon dust and grabbed at the man in white. When, just as Long Chen's claws were about to fall on the man in white, a pair of big hands suddenly blocked the man in white and blocked the blow of Long Chen. What? On those transparent hands, endless symbols flow, and the breath of divine majesty is irresistible, such as the coming of God. It's the power of Brahma. Dragon dust was surprised. Damn mole ants, there are 3 treasures in this testing place that the master left to me. One is the Brahma power of the master, the other is the original Great Brahma Sutra, and the other is the golden lotus seed. The man in white clenched his teeth. I see. There are 3 kinds of treasures. I have got the second. I can't see and am satisfied with the things of Brahma. Long Chen's eyes turned and he said with a smile. Looking at the man in white gnashing his teeth, Long Chen couldn't say how happy he was. At the same time, Long Chen is quietly sensing the power of the barrier. If he can't break the barrier, he and Yu Qingxian will be in danger. After the exquisite blood magnolia sent him in, he disappeared. How to get out depends on Long Chen himself. The enchantment is condensed by the power of Brahma. Only the man in white, the disciple of Brahma, can go in and out freely. If you want to go out, you can only think of a way from the man in white. Hand over the golden lotus seeds, otherwise. The man in white turned and looked at Yu Qingxian in the distance. A lewd smile appeared on his face. Fuck you. Before the man in white continued to speak, the murderous intention of Long Chen was detonated in an instant, a wrong body and a slap on the man in white's face. Pa. The man in white did not expect that his arbitrary body protection Shenhui would slow down a step. The slap of dragon dust blew half of his face open, and his blood splashed out like a meteor. Today I'll let you know how to write death. Dragon dust roared up to the sky, and people jumped at the man in white like crazy. www.milovenovel.com, the fastest update of the web novel. Chapter 46:14 Boom. With the rage of dragon dust, endless flames rise in the enchantment, and the violent killing intention makes the flames boil. The man in white was slapped in the face by dragon dust, as if his face had been hit by a sledgehammer, and his whole head was dizzy. However, his strength was extremely strong. After such a terrible blow, he recovered his mind in the blink of an eye. Seeing Long Chen killed, the man in white was furious. How noble his identity was. He was slapped in the face for the first time in his life. That humiliation made him crazy for a moment. Dead, the man in white made a seal with his hands, and the flame rose all over his body. A long fire-red sword appeared in his hand, and a sword fell against the dragon dust. Hiss! The long red sword cut down the sky, and the 10,000 principles were split by a sword. The fierce murderous spirit went straight to the dragon dust through clouds and rocks. Facing the sword of the man in white, the dragon dust didn't dodge. The stars were moving on his arms, and the dragon scales were surging. He just resisted with his arms. Boom! With a bang, Long Chen's arms shook violently and flew with flesh and blood scales. With flesh and blood, Long Chen blocked the sword of the man in white, and immediately suffered a great loss. His arms were blurred. However, Long Chen didn't care. At this time, his eyes were red and his teeth were gnashing. His killing intention almost made him lose his mind. The dragon has an adverse scale, and he will be angry when he touches it. Yu Qingxian is the largest adverse scale of Long Chen. The man in white dared to threaten him with Yu Qingxian. At that moment, Long Chen was almost crazy. Long Chen connected the sword of the man in white with his arms. The man in white didn't expect that Long Chen was so fierce. When he was shocked and his blood surged, Long Chen suddenly grabbed the man in white's long sword. The man in white snatched it back, but the long sword was as cast in the hand of Long Chen, and it didn't move. The man in white drank coldly, pinched the seal in his left hand and pressed it on the back of his right hand. He saw endless flame runes injected into the long sword along his palm. When the flame rune is injected into the long sword, the fire-red long sword gradually becomes dark red from the hilt. When the dark red appears, the vast divine power rises. Hiss, dragon dust's big hand smokes and the intense high temperature can't even bear it. If it goes on like this, the whole palm of dragon dust will be burned instantly. The man in white thought that dragon dust would let go in a moment under the terrible high temperature, and his subsequent killing moves would follow one after another. However, what he didn't expect was that the dragon dust didn't give up. On his palm, endless stars lit up and went crazy into the long sword along the tip of the sword in the most violent and barbaric way. Buzzing, buzzing. One side of the long sword is the power of flame and the other side is the power of stars. The two forces are injected into the long sword at the same time. The long sword roars continuously. In the confrontation between the two forces, it bears terrible pressure. Boom! Suddenly there was an explosion, and the long sword burst into pieces in the confrontation between Long Chen and the man in white. The endless fragments danced, and the man in white immediately stepped back to avoid the fragments of the long sword. Long Chen ignored those fragments and let them hit him and cut big holes in his body. However, he stepped forward and stabbed the man in white in the throat with half of the broken sword in his hand. The man in white didn't expect Long Chen to be so brave. When he reacted, the broken sword in Long Chen's hand had come to him. Poof! The sharp broken sword crossed the throat of the man in white. The blood splashed. The blow of dragon dust was as fast as lightning. It was launched when the man in white avoided the broken sword. It was done at one go. However, the man in white was strong. With his strong fighting instinct, he looked up 3 inches and was surrounded by fire runes. For the first time, he gathered in front of his neck to form a shield. The shield counteracted part of the force on the broken sword, so the broken sword cut his throat, the wound was smooth, and the flesh and blood did not explode. The man in white changed his face. This blow cut his throat. If he reacts slowly, his neck will be cut off in an instant. Although he will not die if his neck is cut off, with the strength of dragon dust, he will seize the loss of this move, launch a more violent attack, and no longer give him a chance to turn over until he is defeated. The man in white is a peerless strong man. He doesn't know how many experts he has lost in his life, but he never thought of fighting with others. He was almost killed in a few moves. Boom! The man in white had his throat cut, the endless flame runes on his body were broken, the space in front of him was distorted, and the man disappeared in an instant. At the moment of his disappearance, the broken sword full of stars in Long Chen's hand took off like a meteor. Poof! The broken sword broke through the void and brought out a canopy of blood rain. The disappeared man in white appeared again, and a huge blood hole had appeared in his chest. The moment the man in white cut his throat, he was afraid of dragon dust. He finally realized that the guy in front of him was not as weak as he thought, and had the strength to kill him. Having suffered a great loss, he wanted to distance himself from the dragon dust. He used his secret method to escape, but he still didn't escape the spirit lock of the dragon dust and hit with one hit. Boom! Dragon dust treads on the void, just like the demon king rushing to kill him. He doesn't give the man in white a chance to adjust. Obviously, dragon dust wants to kill him as quickly as possible. Brahma's anger, fire dragon burning the sky. The man in white didn't care to heal his wounds. He roared and sealed his hands. Endless fire dragons appeared from all directions. This move was exactly the one he used in the air. That move hurt the dragon dust and almost lost his life. Buzz, the endless fire dragon has just appeared, but the dragon dust has rushed in front of the man in white and swept away. The sound of dragons singing in the vision behind him is loud. A dragon tail is drawn fiercely, the space trembles and the heavens tremble. This blow contains the greatest killing opportunity. What? Can't lock? The man in white summoned the endless fire dragon, but he was shocked to find that this move could not lock the dragon dust. You know, before using this move across the air, the dragon dust was firmly locked, but now it has failed. He could hardly believe his eyes. He didn't understand what the problem was, but the fact was the fact, which could not be questioned by him. Seeing the dragon's tail sweeping, the printing method in his hand changed rapidly. Buzz, the endless fire dragon gave up attacking the dragon dust and formed a shield in front of the man in white. 10,000 dragon shield, the man in white roared and blocked the dragon dust with a flame dragon shield. I have to say that he changed his moves very quickly, changed the attack into defense, and didn't see the slightest stagnation. Boom! The dragon tail pumped heavily on the flame dragon shield. With a loud bang, the flame dragon shield burst open. The man in white snorted. He was heavily pumped by the dragon tail, flying out like a meteor, bumping heavily into the enchantment, and a mouthful of blood gushed out. Dead, the dragon dust came in the air, the thunder wings trembled behind, and the murderous spirit shrouded the universe. Want to kill me? Dream and die. At this time, the man in white was covered with blood and his face was still ferocious. With a roar, a picture scroll appeared in front of the dragon dust. When he saw the picture scroll, Long Chen's face changed greatly and he dodged. Hiss! In the picture, a divine light came out, flew close to the body of dragon dust, and penetrated the void. www.milovenovel.com, the fastest update of the web novel. Chapter 46:15, Brahma Map. Long Chen recognized the origin of this painting. At the time of the mortal world, Long Chen and Dangu were enemies and fought against it several times. Now he sees it again in the fairy world. In the picture of Brahma, flames flow and stars surge. A picture seems to contain a world. Its breath is sacred and magnificent. It covers the way of heaven and makes the soul painful. It is like a needle. It makes life unable to resist. It seems that all creatures are as small as mole ants in front of it. Just now, there was a divine light in the picture, which directly broke through the heaven and earth, forming a black hole around Long Chen. If Long Chen was hit, it was likely to kill him directly. When the man in white saw that the dragon dust had avoided a blow from the Brahma God map, he shouted angrily, and his hands quickly sealed. The Brahma God map trembled and zoomed in. In a moment he wrapped the whole border and formed a cage of heaven and earth. His Brahma God map is going to merge with Brahma. Don't fight with him and kill him. Just then, the voice of the heaven and earth tripod came, and it took the initiative to appear on the top of Long Chen's head. After listening to the heaven and earth tripod, Long Chen immediately understood that the Brahma God map was specially used to collect Brahma's boundary. These are the treasures left by Brahma to his disciples. Everything was arranged. However, they didn't expect that all these were destroyed by Long Chen. There is a fierce battle with the man in white here. Long Chen has to fight against the divine power of the great Brahma. He is not afraid to deal with the man in white, but with the power of the great Brahma, it is almost impossible to kill this guy. Holding the heaven and earth tripod in his hand, Long Chen smashed his arms at the enchantment and Brahma God map. Boom! With a bang, Brahma's Jejya and Brahma's divine map were punctured by the heaven and earth tripod at the same time. What? The man in white was shocked. His face was full of horror. He couldn't believe his eyes. At this time, Long Chen had rushed out of the siege against the heaven and earth tripod. Long Chen took Yu Qingxian and just rushed out of Brahman circle. Suddenly, his body disappeared for a moment. Chen Kuan-ding exclaimed, "What are you doing?" What it didn't expect was that dragon dust suddenly rushed back to the barrier and rushed at the man in white. The man in white was still immersed in horror. Suddenly, he saw a flower in front of him, and then half of his face burst open. In the blood splash, the man hit the border like a meteor. You are shameless. If it were not for the power of Brahma, you would have to be beaten into pie today. Dragon dust slapped and flew out like a flash of lightning with the force of anti-earthquake. At the moment when Brahma's boundary and Brahma's divine map were closed, he rushed out. Dragon dust just flew out, Brahma's boundary and Brahma's divine map were closed in an instant, and dragon dust time was just under control. Dragon dust had a heaven and earth tripod on his head and took Yu Qingxian in one hand. His figure disappeared in a flash. Ah! The man in white roared up to the sky and roared like a beast. At the same time, Brahma's divine map was fully integrated with Brahma's boundary, and the whole world was shaking. The divine power of Brahma's divine map made the heavens tremble. Unfortunately, the integration of Brahma's divine map and Brahma's boundary is a step late after all. Dragon dust escaped. It has the power to kill God, but it can't show it. Dragon dust, you deceive people too much. The white man's teeth are going to be broken. He has seen bullies, but he has never seen such bullies. Everyone has escaped and ran back to slap him in the face. Long Chen deduces what humiliation is to the extreme. Boom! Brahma's picture zoomed in rapidly and covered the sky. The endless flame plunged the world into a sea of fire. Unfortunately, the dragon dust has already run away, and it can't trace any trace. Ah! The man in white was so angry that his lungs were going to explode, but he could do nothing but roar and howl. You fool, when can you grow up? If you were a little late just now, once the Brahma divine map and the Brahma power are integrated, you will never get out again, and even I can't save you. The curse of the heaven and earth tripod sounded in Long Chen's mind. Obviously, it was very angry. Hey, don't worry, elder. I've calculated well and won't have an accident. Long Chen said with a smile. Besides, the guy looked at us with a smelly face and a crooked neck. In that position, we don't slap him in the face. Can we afford him? The heaven and earth tripod was speechless for a while. I really convinced you. What's the point of slapping you in the face? Of course, if I can't kill others, I'll kill them. If I can't beat them, I must wipe his big nose. I can beat this guy, but I can't kill him. How can I live in the future without slapping him in the face? Dragon dust rode. Long Chen was upset. Of course, he would not make the man in white feel better. Long Chen suddenly said, By the way, Master, after the integration of Brahma's circle and Brahma's divine map, can't you really do anything about it? I don't believe it. I'm in a weak period now, and the original power is so precious. For a miscellaneous fish, you let me waste such precious original power? The heaven and earth tripod is not good. That's not a miscellaneous fish. That's a disciple of Brahma. Dragon dust retorted. Disciple? The heaven and earth tripod was angry and smiled. The disciples of Brahma are widely distributed in 9 days and 10 places. There are many nominal disciples like the sand of the Ganges. What's the use of killing them? Nominal disciple? No, nominal disciple is so strong? Dragon dust was startled. This guy is not a nominal disciple. The Galileo you killed was a nominal disciple. The man in white can get the Brahma God map and is guided here to get the treasure. He must be a registered disciple. But even if they are registered disciples, there are 3,000 people. What is it? Heaven and earth ding dao. 3,000? Long Chen's face can't believe that Brahma has 3,000 such disciples. Isn't Brahma the realm of God? Even if he has lived for endless years and accumulated endless power of faith, he is only God. How can he have so many terrorist powers? Dragon dust doesn't understand. God Zun, now in front of dragon dust, can wave to destroy it. Originally, Dragon dust thought that as long as he arrived at God Zun, even if he had the power of faith accumulated over countless years, Dragon dust also had the power of a war. However, now competing with Brahma, Long Chen was shocked to find that the strength gap between him and Brahma was almost one in heaven and the first on the ground, and there was no comparability at all. You are misled by his name. If others call him Brahma God, you think he is God's realm? Heaven and earth ding dao. Isn't it? Dragon Dust asked. Of course not. The reason why he is called God is because he is the supreme God. The sound of the heaven and earth tripod hit Long Chen's heart like a sledgehammer. www.milovenival.com, the fastest update of the web novel. Chapter 46:16, Brahma, the Supreme of Gods? Dragon Dust took a breath of air conditioning. Now he understood what this God respect meant. He had always understood it wrong. The supreme in God, that is, the strongest in God cultivation, otherwise it doesn't deserve such a title. Shinshio and Xianshio have always been the two mainstreams in the human practice circle. For many years, the two mainstreams have criticized each other and been controversial. Xianshio has always not recognized divine cultivation. He believes that divine cultivation depends on the accumulation of his predecessors. It is unfair to fight for history and details. Especially for ordinary people, this road is a dead end. If a person wants to create a throne, he needs the accumulation of countless generations, millions of years or even longer, in order to achieve little success. During this period of time, we can't let the faith be cut off. At the same time, we also need to recruit believers and spread branches and leaves. Although there are countless spiritual practices in the practice world, it requires a long accumulation and cannot be cut off, which is extremely demanding for the inheritance of Shinto. The inheritance of Xiandao is different. Although it cannot be said that it does not need to rely on the achievements of ancestors, it depends more on personal efforts to create its own future. Although immortal cultivation and divine cultivation coexist in the human race, and the two cultivation methods are the mainstream of the human race, there is a huge gap in the proportion between the two. Xianshio occupies 9/10, while Shinshio only has 1/10. Although the number of Shinshio is much less than Xianshio, Shinshio has always been able to keep pace with Xianshio and compete with Xianshio. Even many times, it can suppress Xianshio. That's because there are some powerful powers that have never been cut off by the Shinto for countless years, and even some Shinto inheritance can be traced back to the chaotic era. Accumulated from the chaotic era, the efforts of countless generations and the strength of their faith are unimaginable. Although Xianshio flowers bloom, in any era, there are unparalleled Tianjiao. They are as dazzling as meteors. But although meteors are dazzling, they can't last long after all. Many times, they are just a flash in the pan. A powerful immortal cultivation may make a family, a power and a sect prosperous for a time, but once the unparalleled Tianjiao falls, his family owner, sect and power will decline rapidly and be submerged by the long river of history. Compared with the flash in the pan of immortal cultivation, divine cultivation seems to be more lasting. Therefore, in history, many powerful immortal cultivation finally turned into divine cultivation. There are also some declining Shinto inheritance, because after the inheritance is cut off, we can't see any hope and have to turn into immortal cultivation. In the Terrans, Xianshio always looked down on Shinshio, saying that Shinshio was lying on the coffin of his ancestors and thought that they didn't earn everything by themselves, which was a kind of cheating. However, the words of immortal practitioners are often sour because they have a strong background and inside information, which makes people envy, and hate. Although jealous, it is an indisputable fact that Xianshio does suffer a lot of losses compared with Shinshio. The longer the Shinto inheritance is, the more terrible the inside information is, because no one knows which day the Shinto inheritance in the chaotic era will appear. In the inheritance of Shinto, there are many long-standing but extremely low-key existence, but it's frightening that Brahma claims to be the supreme god. The most important thing is that the name of Brahma God has existed for countless years. Obviously, no one can shake his position. Otherwise, someone would have challenged him to compete for the name of the supreme god. After thinking through these, Long Chen felt a cold sweat on his back. Now he realized how terrible Brahma was. At first, he planned to go to the realm of God and seek revenge from Brahma. Now think about how childish and ridiculous this idea is. At the same time, the dragon dust also raised endless anger. The huge gap made him angry. He wanted to practice a peerless god pill. After eating it, he could compete with Brahma. You don't have to be angry. The so-called embracing wood is born at the slightest. The 9-story platform starts from the tired soil. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. The road should be walked step by step, and the rice should be eaten mouth by mouth. You know, if you want a speed, you can't reach it. Heaven and Earth Ding advised. Longchen nodded and said with a wry smile, "Thank you for your teachings. I know all these principles, but after all, I am immortal. I can't be as calm as my predecessors and can't make waves. It has nothing to do with ordinary people and extraordinary people. It's mainly because you have too little experience." Heaven and Earth Ding Dao. I haven't experienced much? Long Chen shook his head with a trace of bitterness on his face. Although he is young, he has experienced dangerous twists and turns, which is probably many times more than some old monsters who have lived for thousands of years and tens of thousands of years. Of course not. What you have experienced is nothing more than fighting and killing, nothing more than human sophistication, nothing more than seasonal changes, nothing more than wind, frost, rain and snow. When you go through the changes of times, the changes of years, the rise and fall of heaven and earth, and the alternation of times, you will find that what you have experienced so far is only a fragment of a heavy history book, not even a lot of chapters. Heaven and Earth Ding sighed, with vicissitudes in his voice, as if he had fallen into a distant memory. Of course, compared with you, boy is certainly nothing. Long Chen smiled and said that compared with the Heaven and Earth tripod, there is really no comparability. The voice of the Heaven and Earth tripod became a little deep. I witnessed the most prosperous era in the world. I watched it step by step to the edge of collapse, but I could only watch quietly and could do nothing. During this period, I saw countless races become the overlord of the world, and then pushed down the altar, even exterminated their families and species, and submerged by the long river of history. I also saw countless unparalleled Tianjiao. They were shining like comets, lit up the whole world, and then watched them fall one by one. No matter how powerful a practitioner is, it seems that he can't escape the control of fate. To tell the truth, in addition to my first master, I have been accompanied by predestined friends for several times, and among my companions, you are the most gifted. Dragon Dust Excited Tunnel. You are the stupidest one. Heaven and Earth Ding replied impolitely. Dragon Dust. Shit, this is true, and I don't know why you became my companion. When you woke me up, to tell the truth, I was extremely disappointed. Heaven and Earth Ding Dao. Elder, I feel a little uncomfortable when you say that. There was a bitter taste on Long Chen's face. Chen Kuan Ding seemed to dislike him, which hit him greatly. Chen Kuan Ding continued, in fact, many times I wonder if something went wrong. In this life, how can you be my companion? However, as you become more and more stupid these times, I finally understand one thing and let me make a decision. What decision? Long Chen's heart is jumping wildly. Isn't the Heaven and Earth tripod leaving? I'm going to officially recognize you as the Lord. The sound of the Heaven and Earth tripod was like thunder, which shocked the whole person of Longchen. www.milovenival.com, the fastest update of the web novel. Chapter 46:17 Elder. Did I hear you right? Long Chen's voice stuttered a little. Before, Chen Kuan Ding was very dissatisfied with him. In the twinkling of an eye, he would recognize the Lord. Long Chen was confused, and this turning point was too big. Although the Heaven and Earth tripod has always been on Longchen has never dreamed of becoming the master of the Heaven and Earth tripod one day. You know, it's one of the 10 strongest chaotic artifacts in the world. How hard it must be to become its master. His small body can't afford this terrible cause and effect. To tell you the truth, you are really stupid, but you have a special temperament that will make people believe you blindly. And no matter how bad you are in a desperate situation, you never give up. The most important thing is that you don't seem to know what fear is by nature. Others will fear, but you will only be angry. When you are angry, you will do some stupid behavior. At the beginning, I doubted very much why the old dragon monster had something to do with you and taught you its secret. Heaven and Earth Ding Dao. You're talking about the Dragon Elder. Do you know it? Long Chen's heart jumped wildly. Listening to the tone of Heaven and Earth Ding, they should know each other. Kine Kunding didn't answer him and continued, "My companions are brilliant and resourceful, but they all ended up in a bad end. But you are an odd number. After much consideration, I decided to gamble. How about you? Are you willing to gamble with me?" "But what?" Dragon Dust asked. "Bet on my life, bet on yours, and bet on the lives of all living beings in 9 days and 10 places. Heaven and Earth Ding Xin Xing Dao." "Why bet?" Dragon Dust couldn't help asking. "Because 9 days and 10 Earth are about to be destroyed, I must choose a master, fully support him and race against time. In fact, you are not my best choice, but time is tight and I have to choose you. Heaven and Earth Ding Dao. Give me your full support?" Dragon Dust was overjoyed when he heard this. "But don't be happy too early, because your realm is too low and your strength is too weak. The cause and effect after recognizing the Lord is very terrible. Especially in the liquidation of natural disaster, your natural disaster will become more difficult. It is likely that you can't survive this natural disaster. I want to make it clear to you. Heaven and Earth Ding Dao. How bold people are and how productive the land is, courage is the output. There's nothing to be afraid of. I'll take the job." As soon as Long Chen gritted his teeth, he made a decision directly. "You have a good idea. Heaven and Earth Ding Xin Xing Dao. There's nothing to think about. As you said, I'm stupid. Can I come up with any good ideas?" Long Chen smiled. "Don't laugh. It's a road of no return. Once you choose, neither you nor I will have room to turn back. The Heaven and Earth tripod is serious. You are one of the 10 supreme artifacts. You are willing to gamble. I am barefoot and afraid of you who wear shoes?" Dragon Dust asked. "Well, in that case, you're ready. I'm going to sign the contract." Heaven and Earth Ding Dao. Buzz, it was said that Long Chen was ready. In fact, there was no time for Long Chen to prepare. The Heaven and Earth tripod appeared on Long Chen's head and shocked his whole body. Long Chen felt that his soul was out of the body and branded on the Heaven and Earth tripod. At the same time, the bronze tripod also appeared in the center of Long Chen's eyebrows. At that moment, Long Chen seemed to have completed a short soul exchange with the Heaven and Earth tripod. At the moment of soul exchange, Long Chen felt extremely weak, as if his cultivation had been completely abolished, as if he had returned to the way he was knocked unconscious in bed in Fengming Empire. Decadence, humiliation, anger, unwillingness. Countless negative emotions surged into my heart. The feeling of weakness was maddening, as if all power had been deprived. Long Chen knows that his feeling is the feeling of the Heaven and Earth tripod. The Heaven and Earth tripod is one of the 10 supreme artifacts, but now it can only survive. The humiliation and reluctance can't be described in words. Boom! At this time, Heaven and Earth trembled, the universe trembled, the stars in the sky seemed to stop flowing, and the strong people in 9 days and 10 places looked at the void with horror. Because there was a huge tripod on the void and among the stars, and a vague figure appeared under the huge tripod. What's that? Countless people saw this scene and shouted in horror. They thought that the demon god had come to the world to destroy the heavens. Is the legend true? 9 days and 10 places will be ended, heaven and earth will overturn, thousands of roads will be destroyed, and all creatures will not escape this catastrophe? The older generation of strong people saw this scene, their voice trembled and their eyes were full of panic. 9 days and 10 places, this scene can be seen in every corner, causing great panic. In Lingshao Academy, an old sweeper finally put down his broom. He looked up at the stars. His turbid eyes became clearer than the spring water for a moment, as if he had penetrated time and space. Then a smile appeared on his face. Heavenly visions, this is a chaotic artifact. Recognize the Lord, Dragon Dust. Hey, this boy is really unusual. Boom. Long Chen didn't know that the recognition of the Lord by the Heaven and Earth tripod caused a great sensation in 9 days and 10 places. At this time, he was gradually integrating with the soul of the Heaven and Earth tripod in the roar of heaven and earth. However, the soul of the heaven and earth tripod is too vast, just like the sea, and the soul of dragon dust is just a boat in front of it. Dragon dust can only resonate with the power of some souls of the heaven and earth tripod. Buzz, suddenly, Longchen's whole body was shocked, and his soul belonged to his body. Longchen had no change, but he had the feeling of water emulsion / blending with the heaven and earth ding. They were inseparable from each other. The heaven and earth tripod said, "Master." "No, sir, don't call me that. You'd better call the boy's name." Dragon dust was startled. "I have recognized you as the Lord. The title of Master is very normal." Heaven and earth ding dao. No, it's abnormal. It feels strange. You'd better call my name." Longchen quickly waved his hand. He felt that he couldn't stand this title. "Well, I'd better call you by your name, Dragon Dust. Now I recognize you as the Lord. The vision will disturb 9 days and 10 places. At that time, monsters of all races will chase you like crazy." Heaven and earth ding dao. "But just pure jealousy of my handsome appearance?" Dragon dust was stunned. Without paying attention to the cold humor of Longchen, Chen Kuan-ding said, "Because I already recognize you as the Lord. If someone can kill you, I will enter a state of ownerlessness. In this state, they have the opportunity to plant a soul mark on me and become my new master." Dragon dust was surprised. Didn't he become a living target? "Moreover, I can't resist, so, as I said before, this is a big bet. Now we have no way back. Now, they'll take you to a place." Heaven and earth ding dao. "Where are you going?" "A place you want to go in your dreams. www.milovenovel.com, the fastest update of the web novel. Chapter 46:18 Buzz, the void was twisted, and the dragon dust was directly brought to a desolate place by the heaven and earth tripod. When he set foot in this desolate place, Longchen felt his heart suddenly tightened, and a sense of sadness came to his heart. Here is a bloody world, bloody walls, bloody floor tiles, and bloody rocks. All the buildings here are bloody. Just came here, the rich bloody gas came from the pavement. At the same time, the dragon dust's hot blood surged up, and his body trembled involuntarily. Creak, creak. Endless anger surged into his heart, his fist crunched, and his violent desire to kill burst out without warning. The world stained with blood has not faded after years of changes, wind and rain and years of erosion. Do you feel it? Like you, they are disciples of the 9 stars and 1 vein. In the face of endless enemies and helpless, they have fought bloody battles for 3,000 years. None of the 100,000 9-star disciples surrendered. They fought until the last one, and also took countless strong people on the road. Originally, here, the bones piled up like a mountain, straight into the sky, which is higher than any mountain you've ever seen. Now endless years have passed, and these bodies have long been reduced to ashes under the erosion of years. But the blood of the 9-star disciples and the red world will never fade. They are the most respected warriors in the world. The heaven and earth tripod sighed. Its voice was deep and distant, as if it had brought people into the distant ancient times. Who killed them? Longchen gnashes his teeth. He wants to avenge them. Although Longchen had never met these 9-star disciples, he felt their blood calling. Longchen seemed to have seen it with his own eyes. The dragon blood soldiers sacrificed. That kind of killing intention almost ignited Longchen. There are too many people who kill them, including Demon Clan, Ming Clan, Blood Clan, Yu Clan, Dark Knight Clan, Li Clan, Montu Clan, Wild Beast Clan, and Spirit Monster Clan. The heaven and earth tripod spoke out hundreds of races in one breath, most of which dragon dust had never heard of. Of course, and you Terrans. The heaven and earth tripod finally said, "These damn bastards, I'll pay them with blood." Dragon dust bites his teeth. It's all in the future. Come on, let's get down to business and move forward. Heaven and earth ding dao. According to the words of the heaven and earth tripod, Longchen entered the bloody world. It can be seen that after it was occupied, someone destroyed everything here, as if to erase everything here. Ahead is a piece of ruins. Chen Ding asked Long Chen to dig out a passage from the ruins. This is an underground passage, which is completely preserved. Originally, murals should be carved on both sides of the channel, but they have been scratched with sharp tools and can't see the original appearance. Then, Long Chen saw a complete mural. On the mural, a powerful demon with wings on his back tore the void with his claws. In the void, a figure was torn apart. The torn figure did not deliberately outline his face, but it could be seen from the star vision behind him that he was a disciple of 9 stars and 1 vein. Seeing this scene, Long Chen was furious. He hit the wall with a fist, and the wall cracked with a bang. The figure of the powerful demon family was hit by Long Chen with a fist. The Wing Demon clan dares to humiliate me. It's best for me to meet you or it'll kill each other. Dragon Dust's lungs are going to explode. You don't have to think about it. There are winged demons in the Siege of the 9 Stars, and they deliberately left murals to humiliate the 9-star heirs and show their achievements. All the way forward, there was no more graffiti. Obviously, many people rushed here to destroy. No one was as boring as the Winged Demon family and graffiti. After entering the underground passage, these people damaged all the murals. Although Long Chen didn't know what was painted on the murals, according to experience, the secret of 9 stars and 1 pulse must be recorded here. After walking forward for 3 hours, he experienced 8 gates, all of which were smashed by violence. When he came to the end of the channel, Long Chen saw a complete gate. The portal is scarred and pitted. Obviously, it has withstood countless heavy blows, but the intruders failed to blow it up. This is the place for 9-star disciples to try. Don't you always want to know how strong 9-star disciples of the same level are? Now the opportunity comes. Heaven and Earth Ding Dao. You mean? Long Chen was surprised and happy. Some couldn't believe his ears. This is the highest level trial of 9 stars and 1 vein disciples. The first 8 portals can be opened and closed by people. But this 9th gateway is not controlled by anyone. Once you enter the trial, you can't turn back. Either challenge success or die in it and absorb all the power by the law here. Because it absorbs too many 9-star disciples, it makes this gate indestructible. The invaders have no choice but to give up in the end. Therefore, everything here has been destroyed, but it has been preserved. Heaven and Earth Ding Dao. You mean, let me enter the strongest test? Dragon Dust Road. Yes, there is a 9-star descendant of the Realm King. The realm is the same as you. It also opens the 7-star battle body. The difference is that he is not a real person, but a Tianjiao in ancient times. At the peak of the 9-star pulse, he ranked 97th in the same generation. At that time, he chose to copy his strength as the test standard. Heaven and Earth Ding Dao. Only 97. Long Chen thought it was the first place, but the result was number 97. Only 97? The Heaven and Earth tripod was not angry and said, "Do you know that when the 9-star pulse was at its peak, it almost ruled the whole world from heaven to earth and was exclusive? At that time, there were hundreds of millions of strong people of the same generation. Among the hundreds of millions of strong people, it ranked 97th. Forget it, I'm too lazy to explain to you. Open the door. You'll soon know what the strength ranked 97th is." Hearing what the Heaven and Earth tripod said, Long Chen immediately became vigilant. In this way, the guy who ranked 97th must be the guy who is abnormal to the extreme. How do I open the door? Dragon Dust asked. Stretch out your hands and see 2 handprints on both sides of the gate? Just put them in. Heaven and Earth Ding Dao. After observation on the scarred gate, Long Chen really found 2 pits. The pits were seriously damaged. If you don't observe carefully, it's difficult to find them. Dragon Dust pressed his hands on the pit. Suddenly, Dragon Dust's body shook violently, the divine ring behind him opened, and the 7-star battle body was automatically summoned. Buzz, then on the huge portal, countless stars lit up. At that moment, the door full of holes became a door to the star domain. Suddenly, Long Chen saw a flower in front of him, and the door in front of him disappeared. Long Chen stood on an ancient arena. Then Long Chen saw a long-haired man with cold face in front of him. The long-haired man stood there like a statue wearing a white robe and a jade belt hanging around his waist. His eyes were closed and did not emit any momentum, but at the first sight of him, Long Chen's heart jumped wildly. His strong perception told him that this man was extremely terrible. Who? Suddenly, the man in white robe opened his eyes. When he opened his eyes, 7 stars circulated in his eyes, and the hairs of dragon dust stood up. At that moment, he seemed to be stared at by the wild beasts. www.milovenival.com, the fastest update of the web novel. Chapter 46:19. It was a pair of clear eyes, like 7 stars in the blue sky. The 7 stars are arranged in a ring, which is a neat 7-sided shape, which is completely different from the pattern of adding a star in the center of the dragon dust's 6-pointed star. When stared at by those eyes, a terrible breath locked the dragon dust in an instant. At the same time, the dome above the arena lit up and lit up the whole duel arena. Above the dome, the endless starry sky, like the stars in the sky, is moving and evolving. They seem to be the only audience in this fight. 7-star battle, open. The 9-star one-vein disciple in white cut off drinking like thunder, shaking the whole challenge arena, and the stars suddenly darkened. Buzz, behind the 9 stars and one-vein disciple in white, the 7 stars are shining like the sun. The divine light is becoming brighter and brighter. The divine light is like a sharp blade. It is wild and overbearing, so bright that dragon dust can't open his eyes. Facing the 9-star and one-vein disciple in white, Long Chen could not see his face clearly and could only see his figure. At that moment, he was like a heavenly god coming to the world. Wan Dao was only worthy of wailing at his feet, and the gods and demons of the heavens could only crawl on the ground. Is this the real 7-star fighting body? Long Chen's voice trembled and his whole body trembled. He was very excited. The 7 stars not only illuminated the arena, but also seemed to illuminate the direction of his progress. For a long time, Long Chen has been groping for the direction of the 9-star Ba Tiju. Countless times, Long Chen woke up in a nightmare because he dreamed that his skill was wrong, became possessed and died. Although the 9-star bully body formula is powerful, the dragon dust has always been facing the abyss, such as walking on a thin life. For fear that if you take a wrong step, you will be doomed. Buzzing, buzzing. As the 9-star disciple summoned the 7-star battle body, his breath burst out continuously, and the violent air waves surged in all directions like a tsunami. Hiss, hiss. With the power of dragon dust, he couldn't stand firm. His body kept moving back. The soles of his feet rubbed against the challenge arena and made a harsh sound. What a terrible force, Long Chen shouted excitedly. The stronger the 9-star disciple was, the more excited he was. Excited fart, hurry up and call out. The trial has begun. Don't be killed by one punch. When the heaven and earth tripods saw that it was this time, Long Chen was still yelling, but he didn't make any preparations. At this time, he didn't care about his master, so he was angry and scolded. Ooh! Suddenly, the 9-star disciple moved. At the moment he moved, the whole challenge arena suddenly vibrated. The space was distorted for a moment. He didn't see his action. He already appeared in front of Long Chen and hit him on the chest. Boom! There was an explosion, and the fist hit Long Chen firmly. Long Chen's chest collapsed and a big bag bulged on his back. He saw Long Chen gushing blood. The 9-star disciple's fist almost pierced his body. What are you doing? The heaven and earth tripod was shocked and angry, and Long Chen had been ready for it, but Long Chen was like a fool. The 9-star disciple shot too fast, and Long Chen had no time to defend. That punch directly broke countless bones in Long Chen's body. If it goes on like this, the dragon dust will be killed without 10 moves. This is not what it wants. Long Chen vomited blood when he was hit, and the man flew backward. The figure of the 9-star disciple flashed, and the man appeared behind Long Chen like a ghost. He spun his body and hit it with an elbow, and went straight to the back of Long Chen's heart. Boom! the 9-star disciple's speed was as fast as lightning, and his action track could not be figured out. Long Chen was still on his way back and was hit. The two forces collided, and Long Chen's body was almost broken in two. Dragon dust was like a sandbag. He was knocked out and hit the challenge arena. He rolled all the way and coughed up blood. Long Chen has just stabilized his body. The 9-star disciple kicked Long Chen's head fiercely, and Long Chen quickly blocked it with both hands. Click! There was a loud explosion and the sound of bone fracture. Long Chen's arms were forcibly kicked off by the 9-star disciple. It's over. I made a mistake in my calculation. The gap between them is too big. If it goes on like this, Long Chen will be killed. Buzz, the heaven and earth tripod suddenly flew out of the chaotic space. It couldn't watch dragon dust be killed. At this time, the 9-star disciple appeared again. On one palm, the stars moved and went straight to dragon dust to take pictures. When the heaven and earth tripod stood in front of the dragon dust, it had to resist the blow for the dragon dust. But what the heaven and earth tripod didn't expect was that the dragon dust suddenly flashed in front of the heaven and earth tripod. Poof! With his chest, Long Chen stubbornly blocked the blow of the 9-star disciple. His blood gushed again. There were countless cracks on his body, which seemed to be blown up at any time. What are you doing? You'll die if you go on like this. Don't continue this trial. Let's go. The heaven and earth tripod is surprised and angry. Is dragon dust crazy? Elder, I want die. You. Look around. Long Chen gasped heavily and his body was shaky. It seemed that he would fall down at any time, but his eyes were as sharp as a knife. As soon as the heaven and earth tripod was stunned, it suddenly seemed to understand something, quietly suspended on the edge of the challenge arena, and no longer intervened in the battle between Long Chen and the 9-star disciples. Boom! There was another explosion, and the dragon dust was hit and flew again. In front of the 9-star disciple, the dragon dust had no power to fight back. Not to mention the 9-star disciple Pei's unstoppable power of the stars, that is, his unpredictable body method, made Long Chen lose his perception direction and couldn't catch his figure at all. The 9-star disciple was wild and domineering. His moves were open and close. He was extremely powerful. He didn't show mercy because Long Chen was also a 9-star disciple. His moves were almost fatal. Boom boom. Dragon dust was hit hard continuously. Even after being baptized by the blood pool of the emperor family, his body could not withstand the heavy blow of the 9-star disciple. The 9-star disciple can swallow the sky with one fist and one palm. The dragon dust is blocked with all his strength. His bones are still broken and his tendons are broken. He is constantly injured. At this time, it reflects the importance of chaotic space. In the chaotic space, Fusang ancient wood and Taiyin would constantly vibrate, crazy injecting their own vitality into Long Chen's body, so that Long Chen's injury can recover quickly. Fortunately, the vitality in their bodies seems endless. As long as the vitality continues to disappear, dragon dust is an immortal body. Boom boom. Long Chen was blindly beaten. He tried to fight back several times, but he couldn't. The attack of the 9-star disciple was domineering and sharp. He attacked all the way like clouds and flowing water. He couldn't find any chance to fight back. The most terrible thing is that the 9-star disciple's strength is getting stronger and stronger, and his hand is getting heavier and heavier. Boom! With a loud noise, Long Chen was boxed by the 9-star disciple, but this time, Long Chen didn't fly out backwards. Behind him, the God Ring lit up and endless stars circulated. Long Chen finally showed his 7-star battle body. www.milovenival.com, the fastest update of the web novel. Chapter 46:20 Long Chen crossed his arms and blocked the 9-star disciple's fist. His arms fell slowly, revealing Long Chen's face. Long Chen's eyes were sharp with excitement. Although his clothes were broken and covered with blood, he looked very embarrassed, but his eyes were full of surprise. I see. You are using his power to awaken your star power. Seeing this scene, Qian Ding finally understood Long Chen's intention. It had to lament the madness of dragon dust. This guy sometimes had some very scary ideas. At the beginning, Long Chen was deliberately hurt by the 9-star disciples and even put himself on the verge of death. His purpose was to awaken the power of the 9 stars to automatically protect the Lord. It can be said that this is a crazy gamble. If Long Chen's 9-star power is not awakened by the 9-star disciples' power, Long Chen will be killed alive and even have no chance to fight back. However, from the current point of view, Long Chen is right. He is constantly hit by the force of the 9 stars. The force of the 9 stars invades his body and constantly destroys his physical function. Thus awakened his own 9-star power. Most importantly, the 9-star power of dragon dust began to absorb each other's power to strengthen himself. This is the ultimate goal of dragon dust. This is the first time that dragon dust has fought with 9-star disciples, and it is also the strong one of the 9-star lineage. This is the best opportunity for dragon dust to peep into the secret of the 9 stars. Long Chen only knows a little about the 9-star Ba Tiju. He can't interpret the 9-star Ba Tiju through the moves, techniques and actions of the 9-star disciples. It's impossible at all. However, you can absorb each other's 9-star power through your own 9-star power, so as to explore the mystery of the 9-star body formula a little bit. With the invasion of the other party's power, Long Chen's 9-star power was awakened and began to absorb the other party's power. At that moment, Long Chen almost shouted excitedly. Because as the strength of the other party was absorbed, Long Chen felt the most primitive breath of the 9-star power. At that moment, Long Chen was like a lost person and finally found a broad road. As the strength of the other party was swallowed up, the dragon dust seemed to rush into the sea from the river in an instant. He saw the boundless world and peeped into the mysteries he had never seen before. Sure enough, I still took many detours. Fortunately, my direction is right. Although there is a slight deviation, fortunately, it can be corrected in time now. It's not too late. Long Chen looked at his arms and felt the changing power of the stars in his body. At that moment, Long Chen felt unprecedented self-confidence. At that moment, it seemed to have the whole sky. Dragon dust blocked the 9-star disciple's blow. The 9-star disciple didn't attack immediately. His hands closed slowly, his thumb clasped, his index finger and middle finger stretched up and made a seal. 9 stars also have printing method? Dragon dust was surprised, because he summoned the battle body, but he never thought that the 9 stars also had India. Buzz, the 7-star divine map suddenly vibrated behind him, and then the 7-star divine map also appeared on the back of his hands. When the 7-star divine map appeared, the dragon dust's hair stood up, broke his drink, hit him with an elbow and hit him sideways. At that time, the 9-star disciple was still in front of Long Chen. At the moment when Long Chen hit his elbow, the 9-star disciple had appeared on the side of Long Chen. Long Chen had an elbow and hit the other party's fist. Boom! With a loud explosion, Long Chen's elbow was in severe pain, and the bone was broken. The fist of the 9-star disciple was even more terrible than the holy soldier. Dragon Chen was shocked. The breath of the 9-star disciple remained unchanged, but after the 7-star pattern appeared on the palm, the power had changed qualitatively. The 9-star disciple didn't give Long Chen a chance to breathe at all. His 5 fingers were like a hook. He went straight to Long Chen's throat and grabbed them. His hands were fierce and almost just. His 5 fingers almost touched Long Chen's skin. Hiss! Dragon dust dodged with all his strength. The claw of the 9-star disciple grabbed on Dragon Dust's shoulder and grabbed a piece of flesh and blood. Long Chen showed his teeth in pain. Seeing that the 9-star disciple came again, Long Chen gritted his teeth and took the other party's palm with his chest. Poof! The 9-star disciple's palm pierced Long Chen's chest. This blow is not something that flesh and blood can resist. This is Long Chen. If someone else is hit by this palm, it will directly explode into blood mist. Dragon Dust's chest was punctured, and people flew out upside down. Dragon Dust was badly hurt. Even if there was chaotic space, he could not repair such a terrible injury in an instant. The nine-star disciple, without the slightest intention of mercy, shook his figure and hit Long Chen's face with another fist. Facing the fatal blow of the nine-star disciple, Long Chen clenched his teeth and punched out. Long Chen's arm became stars in an instant. No, Long Chen deliberately took a slap because he wanted to remember the move just made by the nine-star disciple through the power of the 9 stars and draw a gourd and ladle. But after he struck, he instinctively summoned the star arm, which was a move in the Star River Sky formula, and he couldn't summon the move of the 9-star disciple at all. Poof! Dragon dust gave a painful hum, the whole arm burst, the arm bones cracked, and almost exploded directly. Who just then, the 9-star successor hit again. Calm down, think about that seal. At this time, Long Chen is in a death crisis. If he can't catch this move again, he is likely to be killed with one punch. At that moment, the original voice was lost in heaven and earth, and the fist of the 9-star disciple slowed down. Only the stars on the dome were still flashing. Long Chen suddenly closed his eyes. In his mind, the process of 9-star disciples' seal binding emerged. The action was very simple and there was no mystery. This action was replayed in Long Chen's mind. Long Chen suddenly found that at the moment of the 9-star disciples' seal, the stars above the sky were flashing rapidly. I see. Dragon Dust suddenly exclaimed that others' seal setting is the power of heaven, while the 9-star disciples' seal setting is the power of the stars. Previously, his attention was focused on the seal method of the 9-star disciple, but he ignored the changes of the stars on the dome. Thinking of this, Long Chen suddenly realized that although Long Chen had not learned to seal, he had practiced the formula of the Milky Way and the sky, learned to lead stars into the body, and knew the position and changes of the stars in the sky. Seeing this scene, I immediately understood it, but it was too late to show it at this time. A thunder shield appeared in front of Long Chen. Long Chen's life was in an instant and had to summon Lei Linger to help. Boom! With a bang, Lei Linger and the shield she summoned were blown up at the same time. The power contained in the fist of the 9-star disciple was unimaginable. Even with Lei Linger's terror, he could not catch the blow. However, Lei Linger's blocking one Dragon Dust precious breathing time. Dragon Dust quickly regressed. With the help of chaotic space, his arm has completely recovered and the big hole in his chest is healing quickly. As like as 2 peas, the dragon and the dust are both hands, and the stars are beginning to shine regularly. Buzz, Dragon Dust's hands also showed the pattern of 7 stars. Boom! With a bang, 2 fists with different 7-star gods collided. www.miloveneval.com, the fastest update of the web novel. Chapter 46:21 The void exploded, the runes on the avenue danced, and the Dragon Dust was shocked so that he stepped back more than 10 steps, and the whole person was shocked so that his blood surged. Obviously, he was not as powerful as the 9-star disciple, but there was ecstasy on Long Chen's face. I did it. Long Chen himself couldn't believe it. He learned the 9-star secret method in an instant. Only he who had been attacked by the 9-star disciples knew how terrible this move was. It was such a terrible move, but he learned it in an instant and showed it. Although on the surface, the power of Dragon Dust is still not as good as that 9-star disciple, Dragon Dust is just a beginner and has not been fully integrated. It is extremely rare to have such terrible power. In fact, Long Chen can learn this move in an instant. He wants to thank Xinghe Tiantianju and the 9-star descendant he met last time. During the last robbery, the 9-star descendant used similar skills. Long Chen also tried to imitate, but all failed. The summoning skill he imitated was specious and could not be the essence. Later, under the guidance of Xinghe Sky formula, Long Chen learned to introduce stars into the body, turn the body into stars, and laid a solid foundation for himself. The Xinghe firmament formula itself evolved from the 9-star body formula. However, the Xinghe firmament formula is easier to understand, but the gap between it and the 9-star body formula is still huge. Dragon Dust easily learned to sterify his body, but he still couldn't do anything to imitate the moves of the 9-star successor in the last sky robbery. Even if it was condensed, it was only similar in shape, with a power difference of 18,000 miles. However, if there were no Star River Sky formula, no cover-up of the 9-star descendant, and no painstaking research of dragon dust for countless times, there would not be today's instant integration. Therefore, many times, success is not accidental. Countless seemingly futile efforts have led to today's muddled success. Boom! There was another loud noise. Long Chen and the 9-star disciple fought hard again. The air waves overlapped, and Long Chen was shaken back again. However, Long Chen is ecstatic. Although he is still at a disadvantage, at least in the face of him, Long Chen has the strength to fight. The dragon dust roared up to the sky, the stars in the divine ring behind him flowed, and the purple divine glow stirred. At this time, the original vision of dragon dust's awakening, the sea of stars generates purple gas, showed a different divine glow. The mysterious purple magic light flows and drives the endless stars to operate regularly. The power of the stars of the dragon dust seems to have been overstocked by the volcano for hundreds of millions of years. Finally, it finds a breakthrough and vent out. It is out of control. Boom boom. This time, Long Chen fought back, waved his fists like a meteor, and fought desperately with the 9-star disciples. Different from the situation of being beaten passively before, Long Chen began to fight for the initiative. Although he is still being beaten, at least 3 of the 10 moves can counterattack. Chen Ding was watching the fierce battle of Long Chen. Originally, it was also very worried. It understood Long Chen's character. If it helped, it might cause a great blow to Long Chen's confidence, which would seriously hinder his growth. But if he doesn't do it, he is afraid that Long Chen will be really killed. The 9-star disciple was copied by the array. He will never be merciful. Now, seeing that Long Chen gradually stabilized the situation, he also breathed a sigh of relief. This guy is stupid, but in practice, he has a strong perception and talent, and he can always find the most beneficial way to practice. Although the Heaven and Earth tripod always scolds Long Chen for being stupid, in fact, it means that Long Chen has no brain when he is angry. For the cultivation of dragon dust, it still recognizes him very much. Otherwise, it will not risk betting on dragon dust. Boom Long Chen and his 9-star disciples fought back with fists, but he was still pressed. Long Chen knew that he suffered a loss because of the mysterious body method of the 9-star descendant. In addition, it is the same 9-star pulse, and his perception of danger will obviously become slow. Therefore, Long Chen suffered a great loss. If Long Chen hadn't been experienced in many battles and had invincible strength in close combat, he would have been beaten down by the 9-star messenger. While rushing to attack, Long Chen paid attention to the body method changes of the 9-star successor and also paid attention to the strange star map behind him. Soon, Long Chen found that there was a faint purple atmosphere at the foot of the 9-star descendant. Every step he took, there would be a purple divine light flashing on a star in the star sea above the 9 days. I see. His footwork is arranged in order, just like walking the plum blossom pile. Every step is an asterisk. Suddenly, the ground of the challenge arena appeared in Long Chen's mind. Then the challenge arena was full of stars. The stars under his feet would light up every step of the 9-star disciple. It's like that countless array discs are arranged on the whole Leitai mountain. Each array disc can be transmitted at will. Therefore, his body method has no sign at all, let alone trace. The star sea above the dome, just like the star sea in my God's ring, corresponds to the position of the stars on the 9 days. He radiated to the earth with the power of vision, forming an invisible star map. In the sea of stars, he can go where he wants to go at will, just like Lei Linger's thunder field and Huelinger's flame field. In their own field, the body moves with the mind and shuttles freely. However, in this star field, it is more terrible, there is no space fluctuation, and the body method is traceless. In Long Chen's mind, various patterns kept flashing. He was quickly analyzing the body method of the 9-star disciple and confirmed it with his own guess. The body method of the 9-star disciple is too fast. His figure is everywhere in the challenge arena, just like Long Chen fighting with tens of thousands of 9-star disciples. If you change one, let alone fight, those figures are enough to turn a person dizzy. You can't tell which is the real body and which is the remnant. It's over. I can't remember even if I'm tired and spit blood if I take one step and take 1,080,000,000 steps for each of these 1,080,000,000 stars? While studying the body method, Long Chen remembered his steps. Suddenly, Long Chen thought of a problem that made him desperate. However, Long Chen soon found that the steps of the 9-star disciples had certain limitations. The area where the stars twinkled only occupied a small part of the center of the star C. Long Chenzi counted carefully. There were only 3,600 stars set foot by the 9-star disciple. This discovery made Long Chenzi see hope immediately. Boom! Long Chen roared and smashed with a fist. He fought hard with the 9-star disciple. The 9-star disciple was shocked by Long Chen. Long Chen immediately seized the opportunity, got up and swept away with one foot like a whip. Dragon Dust kicked out, but kicked an empty. It seemed that Dragon Dust would have expected that this foot would fail. With the power of one foot, he turned his body and punched a blow with a roaring wind. Boom! A startling explosion. In the collapse of the void, a figure was boxed by Dragon Dust. www.mylovenival.com, the fastest update of the web novel. Chapter 46-22, Success. Long Chen looked ecstatic. He accurately predicted the position of the 9-star descendant, which also means that he has mastered the law of footwork. As long as he explores patiently and studies in detail, he can also have such unpredictable footwork. Thinking of this, Long Chen was more and more excited. Not far from him, the 9-star descendant in white looked at Long Chen without expression. A fist print appeared on the skirt of his chest, which was just punched out by Long Chen. I don't know what the material of his clothes is. The full blow of Dragon Dust only left an insignificant mark. At this time, except for a pair of underpants, the Dragon Dust was covered with blood in other places. Awesome, I can see the law of Xingyunbu so quickly. Although it is only the primary Xingyunbu, I can study the general framework so quickly and accurately predict the next direction without anyone's guidance. This guy is definitely a genius in the spiritual world. At this time, the heaven and earth tripod watching the battle on the edge of the arena couldn't help but secretly utter an admiration. Maybe the way of heaven is fair and gives him such amazing cultivation talent. That's why he becomes like an idiot at some time. At the same time, Qian Kuanding also reached a conclusion. At this time, the arena was quiet. Long Chen looked at the 9-star disciples. Long Chen did not move, nor did the 9-star disciples. The only thing moving in the dual field was the star map on the dome. With the circulation of the star map, the whole dual field was covered with a strange atmosphere of killing. Then the dual field slowly disappeared, and the Dragon Dust appeared in a wild world. The dual field is gone and the challenge arena is gone. Looking around, it is a desolate world. The earth is full of stones. Everything has changed except the stars in the sky. Feelings, the front is the warm-up link of the trial, and now is the official beginning of the trial. When seeing this scene, Long Chen took a deep breath and his face became serious. This trial is like a natural disaster. Next, there will be a real bloody battle. Whether it is life or death depends on the final battle. Don't be afraid. Don't worry. You can't die with me. Just then, the voice of the heaven and earth tripod came. I don't know when the heaven and earth tripod also entered this world. Boom! Before Long Chen could reply, the 9-star disciple's white clothes fluttered and his long hair danced. The 7 stars in his eyes moved. The 7 stars like the sun trembled behind him. The whole world began to tremble because of his power. Come on, let me know how strong Tianjiao from ancient times is. Facing the man in white, the Dragon Dust was fearless, and the sea of stars in his god ring began to tremble. 7-star battle, open. Dragon dust and 9 star disciples roared at the same time. At that moment, 2 violent smells erupted from the soles of their feet, like a tornado, straight into the sky and shook the sky. Kill, Long Chen and the 9 star disciples stopped drinking at the same time. The black robe floated and the white robe danced. Like one black and one white meteor, carrying the most violent power, they hit each other hard. Boom! The 2 fists integrated into their strongest strength and collided with each other. It was a shocking blow. The moment the fists intersected, the color world turned black and white in an instant. A ball of light was born between the 2 fists. As soon as it appeared, it expanded rapidly and swallowed up hundreds of millions of miles of space in an instant. The earth was torn and the boulders were crushed into powder. In the midst of thousands of whales, dragon dust and 9 star disciples flew out at the same time. This blow, the 2 fought for an equal share, which greatly increased Long Chen's confidence. 1 star god meteorite. The 9 star disciple broke his drink. Suddenly, his right hand made a seal and his left hand grabbed on the void. At that moment, a star was rapidly darkened on the 9 days. Then in his left hand, a fist-sized light ball appeared. The light ball shone from his left hand, along his arm, through his body, and shot out from his right hand. What? Dragon dust was shocked. The light ball shot at him. The vast power made his hair stand upright. Dragon dust roared and blocked with his fists. Boom! With a bang, the light ball was smashed by the dragon dust, but the terrible power made the dragon dust feel as if he had been hit by a star. Even if there was a star chart to protect his hand, he was still numb. Dragon dust's body flew upside down and plowed a big ditch on the earth. Double star flying rainbow, Long Chen hasn't stabilized his body yet. The 9 star disciple appeared behind Long Chen, holding a ball in both hands and smashing it at Long Chen at the same time. Dragon dust didn't have time to avoid, so he bent his fingers to pop up 2 magic lights. The magic light hit the light ball, and the 2 light balls exploded in front of dragon dust. With the power of stars, Long Chen detonated the magic power of the 9 star disciples. Although it detonated in advance, the terrible power tore the void in a large area. Long Chen was so shocked that he almost vomited blood. Samsung's soul chasing, the cold voice of the 9 star disciple came, and the 3 stars were like a continuous gun, shooting at the dragon dust. At the beginning, the light ball was still like a light ball. At this time, it was already in the shape of stars. At this time, the dragon dust lost his fighting power again in the face of the 9 star disciples. It was too late to detonate the 3 stars. Boom, boom, there were 3 explosions in a row. Dragon dust opened one with a fist, and his hands were immediately blurred. The last star, dragon dust, can only resist with his chest. Poof, dragon dust's blood gushed wildly. He was hit again, broke his bones and tendons, and rolled out in a panic. 4 star prisoner, the 4 pillars of light rushed down into the sky. The dragon dust in the core of the pillar of light was instantly sealed and blessed by terror. The power of the 4 stars all accurately pressed on the dragon dust, and the earth under the foot of the dragon dust collapsed in an instant. This is still the initial stage. The 4 light columns have not been completely pressed down, but the dragon dust has felt that the bones are going to be crushed. At this time, the 9 star disciple made great moves, and Long Chen didn't even have a chance to breathe. If he was compacted by these 4 stars, Long Chen might be crushed and exploded in an instant. Open it for me! Dragon dust roared and didn't know where the strength came from. His big hands opened and the sea of stars trembled behind him. Endless stars gathered in his hands to form a star blade. The star blade is in your hand. With one blow of dragon dust, a divine light shoots out, like a sky knife pointing at the sky. Boom! The star blade was cut on the 4 stars, and the star blade and the 4 stars burst into pieces. Stars destroy the world, dragon dust roared. At this time, he couldn't care so much. He spread his hands. Endless stars circulated in his hands, forming a lotus state and smashed at the 9 star disciples. On the 9 star disciple, Long Chen found a way to control the power of Xinghai, but he didn't know any tricks. He could only use the way of controlling the fire lotus to destroy the world. 5 stars break the sky. Facing the star lotus of dragon dust, the 9-star disciple made a seal with his hands and 5-star beads, and went straight to the star lotus of dragon dust. www.milovenovel.com, the fastest update of the web novel. Chapter 46:23 Boom! The star lotus condensed by Long Chen was pierced by a blow. Under the attack of 9-star disciples, this move created by Long Chen has no power at all. Boom boom. 5 stars hit dragon dust one by one. Dragon dust tried his best to resist it, and his whole body was still bloody. 6 star gods, boom, as the 9-star disciple stopped drinking, 6 stars appeared around Long Chen. The 6 stars surrounded Long Chen in the middle. At that moment, Long Chen was shocked to find that he couldn't move. All his energy was sealed by a strange force, and even the power of the stars began to become sluggish and unable to work. At the same time, the powerful twisting force twisted his upper body to the left and his lower body to the right, just like a pair of powerful big hands, grabbed the dragon dust and wanted to crush him like a towel. Buzz! At this time, the heaven and earth tripod finally couldn't sit still and appeared above the dragon dust. Master, don't do it! Dragon dust shouted desperately, and his roar suddenly burst into blood. The great power crushed his internal organs. Don't try to be strong. He is a descendant of the 9 stars, and you are just a half-hearted person. You don't even have a complete mental skill. It's unfair to duel with him. It's beyond my expectation that you can persist until now. The trial is over. Heaven and earth Ding shouted. Indeed, the performance of dragon dust has completely exceeded its prediction. Dragon dust is more powerful than it imagined, especially its on-the-spot adaptability. Even it is admired. But the gap is the gap. The 9-star descendant is the Tianjiao of the most prosperous period of the 9-star pulse, and is the darling of the ancient times. The dragon dust was born in the end of the law. It's like one was born in an emperor's house and the other was born in a civilian's house. The children are the same children, but different environments will cause a huge gap the day after tomorrow. The heaven and earth tripod brought dragon dust here for trial. It never thought that dragon dust would pass the trial, but let dragon dust know the gap between himself and ancient Tianjiao, so as to stimulate his desire for practice and pave the way for his future plans. No, I'll deal with him myself. Trust me. Dragon dust tried his best to resist and had to speak. As a result, his heart and blood gushed wildly, and the fragments of his internal organs gushed out, which looked very frightening. You fool, come again. The heaven and earth tripod scolded angrily, and Longchen began to make mistakes again, but Longchen asked so, it couldn't help it. In the past, the heaven and earth tripod could forcibly intervene, but now it can't. It has completed the recognition of the Lord. It can't go against the will of dragon dust. Even if dragon dust is killed, as long as dragon dust doesn't allow it to save, it can only watch. The heaven and earth tripod was angry and anxious, but there was nothing to do. Even it regretted that it recognized the master so early, otherwise it would not be so passive. Kaka kaka. Long Chen's body was almost twisted into a twist, and the bones clattered. People had been turned for a circle and a half. Their eyes were staring at their buttocks, and their eyes were about to be squeezed out. If you go on like this, you will die. He is in a different era from you. You don't have to compete with him. Seeing this scene, Qian Kuan Ding couldn't help shouting. Confidence is the peak. After fighting with him, I finally understood the true meaning of the 9-star body formula. Without absolute confidence, I can't master the essence of the 9-star body formula. Since I was chosen as the successor of the 9 stars, I am the protagonist of the world. No difficulty can defeat me. I am the king of the world. Long Chen clenched his teeth, and his voice burst out from between his teeth. Even if he was in a desperate situation and was on the verge of death, his will was still firm and unwavering. Kaka kaka. Not only the dragon dust body is twisted, but also the divine ring behind the dragon dust is twisted and deformed. The star C in the divine ring is compressed and vibrates constantly. It seems that people and visions will be twisted and exploded together. Buzzing, buzzing. When the divine ring is compressed to a certain extent, the star C in the divine ring begins to tremble constantly, the divine ring is stretching, and the star C is surging like a tide. Finally, the vision of dragon dust seemed to feel the threat and began to resist. The vigorous breath broke out, and the ripples began to stir in all directions. This is... Seeing this scene, Chen Kuan-ding was surprised. Do you think I was wrong? This test was not arranged by me at all, but a deeper cause and effect? Boom. Finally, the vision of dragon dust is like a sleeping dragon being awakened. In the star C in the vision, endless purple tides are surging, and the divine ring is constantly stretching, just like a beating heart pumping blood and accumulating strength. Open it for me. Dragon dust suddenly roared. His long hair danced like a demon god. Countless stars were flowing all over his body. At that moment, his body seemed to absorb the whole star sea. Boom! A violent force broke out, and the 6 stars trapped around the dragon dust burst into pieces. The huge force directly tore 10,000 roads apart, and the whole desolate world burst open like a mirror. Even the 9-star disciple was directly shattered by the terrible force. The desolate world disappeared, and Long Chen returned to the arena. In front of him, the 9-star disciple with cold face was looking at him coldly. At this time, in the divine ring behind the dragon dust, the star C vision darkened, and he was trembling and shaky. Tick, tick dash, blood dripping on the cold arena, the silent arena, is full of its echo. The sound, like the note of the end of life, is creepy. Buzz. Just then, the 9-star disciple opened his big hand and a broadsword was in his hand. On the broadsword, 7 stars circulated. It's over. When Long Chen saw this scene, he was hit hard. The 9-star disciple still had spare power. According to the previous rhythm, this blow must be several times stronger than the previous one. At this time, he had completely overdrawn his body, and even the Xinghai vision could not be opened. He couldn't take this move at all. I've run out of oil and the lamp is dry. I don't believe you're still in full bloom. Come and see who's stronger. The dragon dust broke his drink, and the starlight on his body again. This is the only power of the stars. After this blow, he will no longer be able to stand up. However, Long Chen did not hesitate to use this last force. He did not let the heaven and earth tripod stop the test. He must defeat the 9-star disciple. This is his obsession. In front of this obsession, death can be regarded as leisure. This time, the heaven and earth tripod didn't stop Long Chen or shout. Instead, it quietly looked at Long Chen and rushed to the 9-star heirs with his broken body. I'm hopelessly stupid. I've been stupid with him for a long time. The heaven and earth tripod issued a silent sigh, in which there was helplessness, self-mockery, joy and joy. Kill! Dragon dust roared, rushed to the 9-star disciple and knocked him down with one blow. This blow exhausted all his strength and gathered his strongest will at the same time. However, the power of this fist is only half of the power before, because at this time, the dragon dust has reached the point where the oil is exhausted and the lamp is dry. Buzz, the 9-star disciple, facing the dragon dust that still rushed in knowing that he would die, did not hesitate to raise the 7-star blade and cut it off suddenly. 7 stars cut the moon, www. MiloVenival.com, the fastest update of the web novel. Chapter 46-24, Boom. With a loud explosion, the dragon dust rolled out and hit the pillar of the challenge arena. The whole person was knocked out of shape, and his body was almost folded in half. It looked terrible. The 9-star disciple, holding the 7-star blade, stood in place and kept the action of cutting down. At this time, the whole world fell into a dead silence. The Chen Kuan-ding was quietly suspended on the edge of the challenge arena. Looking at everything in front of him, he did nothing. Kaka kaka. Suddenly, a crack appeared on the 7-star sharp blade, and then the 9-star disciple began to tremble. Boom! Suddenly his body burst into pieces and turned into stars. Unexpectedly, he floated slowly to the dragon dust. Buzz, the stars, like dust, fell on the body of dragon dust and were gradually absorbed by the body of dragon dust. The heaven and earth tripod sighed and said, "This last blow is an invincible will, not strength." Long Chen was born in the end of the law and grew up in the most deficient and worst environment. However, even the arrogance of ancient times still cannot hide his glory. It seems that this time, I may have bet right. He is a real strong man. All he lacks is time and opportunity. The dragon dust fell into endless darkness. In the dark world, a little star light gradually lit up and wrapped the dragon dust. Dragon dust is like a baby, sleeping soundly in his mother's arms, and the stars in the dark sway, making dragon dust full of a sense of security. At the same time, the little stars nourish the body and soul of Longchen, making him feel more comfortable than ever before. I don't know how long it took. The darkness gradually turned into light, and the stars in the sky disappeared. The strong light made Longchen uncomfortable. He stretched out his hand to cover his sight, and then slowly opened his eyes. Dragon dust found that he was lying in the bloody ruins. The world in front of him was the sight of 9 stars and 1 vein. Longchen sat up. He found that his injury had completely healed. If it weren't for his broken clothes, he even thought he had just had a nightmare. Have I finished the test? Dragon Dust Surprise Tunnel. It's finished and successful. Don't you find that your body is different from before? Heaven and Earth Ding Dao, its voice, with appreciation. Hearing the speech, Long Chen quickly opened his internal vision. He found that something like a star cluster appeared in his skin, blood essence, muscles and veins, bones and bone marrow. What is this? Dragon Dust was surprised and happy. These star clusters swam back and forth in Dragon Dust's body. Dragon Dust could feel their power, but Dragon Dust could not call them directly. That's the sign of the 9-star successor, Star Constitution. Congratulations! You have changed from a nominal disciple to a registered disciple. Heaven and Earth Ding smiled. Star Constitution? Although I don't know what the Star Constitution is, Longchen has a hunch that this constitution is absolutely amazing. His strength will have a qualitative leap. You have absorbed the source of stars in the place of trial. I have to say that you are really lucky. Because this place has been destroyed, you have defeated the tester, and all the forces here have been absorbed by you. To tell you the truth, at the beginning, I brought you to test. I didn't think you could beat the tester, but you did it. You're really great. Heaven and Earth Ding sincerely praised. Haha, trust me, you won't read the wrong person. Praised by the Heaven and Earth tripod, even the Dragon Dust can't help but be elated. What is the Heaven and Earth tripod? That's the 10 supreme artifacts. It's the top existence in the world. How picky its eyes are. It's a great honor to get its appreciation. However, the source of stars in your body is still in the original state and has not been activated, which will not bring you great improvement for the time being. When it fully adapts to your body and you run the 9-star body formula again, you will find that what is meant by using your arms and fingers freely. Heaven and Earth Ding Dao. Then I can freely control the power of heaven, earth and stars like the 9-star successor? Dragon Dust Excited Tunnel. In theory, yes, but in detail, it depends on your understanding and talent. Now that you have just experienced a great war, you'd better shut up immediately and absorb the benefits of this war. Although the source of stars is born in your body, you don't have the real inheritance of 9 stars and 1 pulse, so you need to understand a lot of things yourself. In addition, you can also see that it is also a 7-star battle body. Your God map is completely different. His things may not be suitable for you. You have embarked on another road. You can only learn from their things and their tricks. I'm afraid you need to modify them before you can use them, and even you need to create new tricks. Heaven and Earth Ding Dao. Longchen nodded. The Heaven and Earth tripod was right. The 9-star descendants' moves were terrible. He could imitate them, but it was unknown whether he could achieve the same effect as him. Senior, I've been separated from Qingxian for many days. I'm a little worried about her. I have to go back to her and shut up with her. Dragon Dust Road. At the beginning, Long Chen escaped from the temple. For the sake of safety, Long Chen and Yu Qingxian fled separately. Long Chen deliberately left traces of escape to attract the attention of the disciples of Brahma, so that Yu Qingxian could find a place to shut down. In the temple, Yu Qingxian remembered all the great Brahma Sutras. She needed to consolidate and absorb them quickly while the divine voice was still echoing in her mind, so that she could absorb them more quickly. However, Long Chen ran away all the way, but the disciples of Brahma didn't come. Long Chen didn't know what medicine he sold in his gourd. Later, he was led here by the heaven and earth tripod. Although he knew that with Yu Qingchuan's strength, he could find a place to hide, and the probability of Brahma's disciples finding her was very low, he was still a little worried. Knowing that Long Chen was worried about Yu Qingxian, even if he reluctantly closed the door, because he was worried he might not be able to digest the benefits of the war. Kai Kunding had to agree. Because Yu Qingxian had the mark left by the heaven and earth tripod, 3 days later, Long Chen found Yu Qingxian in a very hidden mountain stream. Yu Qingxian was also very cautious, arranged a lot of magic arrays and transmission arrays, and set an alarm. As soon as Long Chen arrived, she found him. Seeing that Long Chen is well, she can't help but be overjoyed. She has been closed here for several days. She has a deep understanding of the great Brahma Sutra and has almost fully understood it. If Long Chen didn't say she would come to her, she would have to go out to find Long Chen. You just passed the pass, so work hard and help me protect the Dharma. Long Chen smiled gently at Yu Qingxian. From Yu Qingchuan's beautiful eyes, Long Chen saw the sacred brilliance. Yu Qingchuan's temperament had changed greatly. At that moment, Long Chen knew that Yu Qingxian must have obtained amazing benefits in the great Brahma Sutra. The arrays were ready-made, and Yu Qingxian protected them himself. Long Chen immediately began to shut down. Buzz, as soon as Long Chen's eyes closed, Long Chen was shocked to find that he went back to the trial arena. Elder. Dragon Dust was surprised. It's no surprise. I copied all your battles with him, which is more conducive to your understanding. Let's start. Heaven and Earth Ding Dao. Dragon Dust was overjoyed. Unexpectedly, there was such a magic power in the Heaven and Earth tripod. With its help, Dragon Dust began to digest the battle carefully. Boom! 10 days later, there was a bang, the mountains broke, and the air waves rolled like a tsunami in all directions. The Dragon Dust roared up to the sky, surrounded by stars, and shouted at the heaven and earth with pride. Ha! The 9 stars are in hand. I have them in the world. Mom/mom, who will talk to me in the future. See if I don't beat out his shit. www.milovenovel.com, the fastest update of the web novel. Chapter 4625. Shu, you fool, you can't see the light as a 9-star disciple. Heaven and Earth Ding couldn't help scolding. What? Dragon Dust was stunned. You're just barely getting started with the 9-star body formula. Do you think you can fight Brahma with your current strength? Heaven and Earth Ding Linghum. I can't fight. I'm still young and have unlimited potential. I can't fight now. It doesn't mean I can't fight in the future. Dragon Dust is a little unconvinced. How old does Brahma live? How old is he? Dragon Dust's capital is young. In particular, just digesting this war, Dragon Dust feels that he has a deeper understanding of the power of stars and is full of confidence. Fool, if you once expose the identity of the 9-star heir, then Brahma is likely to kill you in person. How can he give you a chance to grow up? The Heaven and Earth tripod hates iron, not steel tunnel. Kill me yourself? Dragon Dust was surprised. What does Brahma exist? He is known as the Supreme God. For him, Dragon Dust is not even a mole ant. He will hunt down himself? Brahma will never tolerate the appearance of 9-star heirs. Although you destroyed the Joyo temple and broke the peeping mirror. But you don't know that Joyo Hall is just one of the 7 forces under Brahma to hunt down 9-star heirs. There are 7 sides of the divine mirror. You have broken 1 side and 6 sides. You think everything too simple. Heaven and Earth Ding Dao. Long Chen's heart jumped wildly. He always thought that as long as he broke the peeping mirror, the 9-star heirs of 9 heaven and 10 earth could walk openly. Unexpectedly, Juyo Hall is just one of the 7 forces. What's more, there are 6 heavenly mirrors. Therefore, your identity as a descendant of the 9 stars can't be exposed. Now you're under the name of Xinghe Sky Ju. This is your best identity cover. In fact, if you hadn't walked into another way of the 9-star Ba Ti Ju, I'm afraid you would have been killed. Your star river vision is completely different from the vision of 9-star transmission. Especially the divine ring makes others doubt that you are a 9-star transmission, so don't talk foolishly. The heaven and earth tripod is serious. Well, listen to your predecessors. Dragon Dust restrained his pride and looked serious. Now you can be arrogant and domineering, but remember, don't expose the identity of the 9-star heir. Heaven and earth Ding Dao. Long Chen nodded and said he remembered it. However, Long Chen was very angry. As a 9-star descendant, he had to hide his name. Some of them were too timid. But there's no way. He can beat the disciples and grandchildren of Brahma, but if, as the heaven and earth tripod said, Brahma comes by himself, he will die and can only endure it. However, Long Chen has secretly made up his mind to make me so angry, so I choose soft persimmons to pinch. I can't beat you, Brahma, or your disciples. Don't you claim to have 3,000 disciples? I'll kill 2 if I have nothing to do. It's not so hard to breathe. Dragon Dust, are you out of the customs? Yu Qingxian rushed over with a surprised look on his face. It's through the customs. Long Chen took Yu Qingchuan's jade hand and smiled. Looking at Yu Qingchuan's smile, Long Chen's depression immediately disappeared. By the way, Qingxian, how did you enter the illusory spirit world from the virtual spirit world? Did you meet anyone else? Dragon Dust asked. Since they met Yu Qingxian, neither of them had time to calm down and talk well. At this time, Long Chen Kai had the opportunity to ask. In fact, Yu Qingxian and others entered the entrance of the virtual spirit world. According to her story, there were countless ancient forces at the entrance of the virtual spirit world, just like the magic spirit world. Their strength was terrible and extremely powerful. In order to compete for the priority of entering the virtual spirit world, there was a fierce battle in front of the entrance of the virtual spirit world. At the entrance of the virtual spirit world at that time, there were thousands of floating corpses and rivers of blood. However, Guoran commanded the Dragon Blood Legion, college disciples, War God Hall disciples and Xinghe sect disciples, and has been sitting on the mountain watching the tiger fight. Xia Chen arranged the directional transmission array in the dark. Because there was plenty of time, Xia Chen directly set the entrance of the transmission array in front of the gate. When the door opened, everyone rushed to the door against the turbulent flow of space. When they appeared, they immediately angered countless strong men, and they stopped them one after another. As a result, Yu Zifeng's sword cut down the sky. With that sword, countless strong people were cut into blood rain. It cut a big hole in the gate of the virtual spirit world. The gate of the virtual spirit world trembled and was almost broken by Yu Zifeng's sword. Yu Zifeng's sword calmed everyone. When they saw that Yu Zifeng was not easy to provoke, they no longer stopped. Yu Zifeng led everyone directly into the channel. According to Yu Qingxian, Xia Chen's transmission array was deviated and delayed because of the confusion of space at that time. He was not the first to break in, but the third batch. However, different from the magic spirit world, after the virtual spirit world entered the gate, there were no old people asking questions. After entering the gate, everyone was directly transmitted away. Yu Qingxian was sent to a sky curtain. When she entered, the sky curtain just fell. She didn't think about it. She walked through the sky curtain just before it fell. She didn't even know that the sky curtain was the boundary between the virtual spirit world and the magic spirit world, and came to the virtual spirit world in a muddle-headed way. After arriving at the virtual spirit world, Yu Qingxian felt the call and walked all the way to the temple. When she was close to the periphery of the temple, she met countless beasts. She didn't dare to fight with these beasts and walked in avoiding them all the way. Although I saw a lot of terror on the road, and even almost found out by the strong of other forces, I came to the temple all the way. However, before she came to the temple, she was caught in a trap arranged by the medicine slave of the disciples of Brahma. If it were not for the arrival of Dragon Dust, she would be in danger. The meaning of calling? Dragon Dust was surprised. He came here, but he didn't feel any call. If it weren't for the guidance of heaven and earth tripod, he wouldn't come here at all. However, when he came here, he felt the call of Linglong Blood Magnolia, which was the key to open the door of the temple. The key did not fall into Yu Qingchuan's hand, but into his hand, which was a little puzzling. By the way, haven't you met anyone else? The others in Longchen's mouth naturally refer to Mingqi, Chu Yao, Tang Weiner, Dong Minjiu, and others. When it comes to this, Longchen can't help jumping wildly, and his eyes are full of expectation. Yu Qingxian shook her head. She knew what answer Longchen wanted, but they really didn't see them from beginning to end. Seeing Yu Qingxian shaking his head, Longchen was suddenly disappointed. He had been separated from all the beauties for a long time. Beautiful shadows appeared frequently in countless dreams. When he woke up, he felt lost. Sorry. Looking at Longchen's lost expression, Yu Qingxian didn't know how to comfort him and could only apologize to him. Looking at Yu Qingchuan's face full of apology, Longchen blames himself and feels distressed. She has to apologize for this kind of thing. He's really out of conscience. Longchen said with a smile, I have a hunch that they must have come in, but their route may be different from ours. Really? Yu Qingxian was surprised. Of course, I ask you, when you came in, did you ever see the disciple of Brahma? Dragon Dust asked. This? Not really. Yu Qingxian recalled. The entrance to the Dragon Kingdom is the same as ours. The disciples of Brahma don't know where they came from. Therefore, there are definitely more than 2 entrances. Don't worry, we will meet them. Dragon Dust comforted. By the way, I need to ask you a favor. Do we need to be so polite? Just say what you want me to do. Yu Qingxian was in a good mood and smiled like a flower. Let's invite Fairy Qingxian to teach me Brahma Sutra. I'm very grateful. When Longchen finished, he pretended to salute, which made Yu Qingxian laugh. Yu Qingxian smiled and asked Longchen to restrain his mind, seal with one hand and press it slowly on the center of Longchen's eyebrows. At that moment, the voice of the great Brahma Sutra sounded again in Longchen's mind. www.milovenival.com, the fastest update of the web novel. Chapter 46-26. The divine voice stirred in Longchen's mind, but this time, Longchen obviously found that the tone of the great Brahma Sutra had changed. At this time, the great Brahma Sutra, in addition to its sacred majesty, also carries a kind of softness and massiness, which is a silent feeling of moistening things. At first, in the temple, Longchen only remembered the tone of the first 5 volumes of the great Brahma Sutra. In the 6th volume, Longchen entered a state of selflessness and didn't remember anything. Now, when listening to the 6th volume of scriptures again, Longchen began to recite scriptures with Yu Qingxian, but Yu Qingchuan's voice was soft and gentle, while Longchen's voice was domineering and fierce. The same scriptures, but the two recited different flavors. When Yu Qingxian recited the scriptures, the flame runes around him flowed like tides, soft and profound. When Dragon Dust recites the scriptures, the flame runes around him are like the roar of a giant dragon. The power of the fierce flame makes heaven and earth tremble and change color forever. The power of fire of Dragon Dust seems to be born for destruction. When he recites the great Brahma Sutra, the power of destruction disturbs heaven and earth, and one world is trembling for the voice of Dragon Dust. After Yu Qingxian passed the complete Brahma Sutra to Longchen, Huolinger appeared. She also recited her recorded Brahma Sutra to Longchen. Huolinger is a fire spirit after all. Her understanding is limited. She absorbs quickly, but digests slowly. She can only read the great Brahma Sutra she heard to Longchen intact. Although Huolinger has not yet understood the great Brahma Sutra, it is obvious that the same great Brahma Sutra, which she recites, has a natural, endless and immortal flavor. After listening to Yu Qingchuan's and Hualinger's Great Brahma Sutra, Long Chen began to quietly digest the Great Brahma Sutra. On a high mountain, Long Chen's hands were like lightning, and endless flames wrapped him. The flame was the fusion of the energy of the fire system of heaven and earth. The sacred and solemn chanting sound, like the whispering of the gods, makes the world tremble. In the void, a chain of order emerges, but it is forcibly broken by the power of fire, and there is a phase of destruction between heaven and earth. The heaven and earth tripod floats on the void and quietly looks at the dragon dust. After recognizing the dragon dust as the main body, it is not in the soul space of the dragon dust most of the time when the dragon dust practices. Elder, dragon dust, is he okay? Watching the endless chains of order emerge and collapse around Long Chen, Yu Qingxian is worried. Don't worry, he's branding his Brahma mark. Heaven and earth Ding Dao. Master, what is the mark of Brahma? Yu Qingxian asked quickly. The Great Brahma Sutra is the first fire sutra in 9 days and 10 places. It is actually the general outline of Fire Sutra, including the control method of all fire energy in the world. Because it covers a wide range, anyone who grasps the Great Brahma Sutra and chooses one of the routes, the so-called 3,000 weak waters, takes only one scoop. Many things, you choose one thing, you must give up another thing. There are countless practitioners of the Great Brahma Sutra throughout the ages, but no matter how many people practice, there are absolutely no two people with exactly the same practice route. Even if it is better than the Great Brahma, one can only specialize in one discipline when practicing the Great Brahma Sutra. This is the law of the Great Brahma Sutra, and no one can change it. Heaven and earth Ding Dao. Yu Qingxian didn't understand because what the heaven and earth tripod told was too mysterious and profound. It looked simple and easy to understand. He could understand it as soon as he heard it, but he would feel at a loss if he explored the reason deeply. The heaven and earth tripod continued, your road is already doomed, but he has to choose the road of Long Chen himself. Your character is different from that of Long Chen, so the future route of practicing the Great Brahma Sutra must be different. Long Chen is looking for the most suitable way for himself. Boom! On the 9 days, there are more and more chains of order, like a snare, which seems to bind the dragon dust. Boom! Suddenly, there was a loud explosion. The printing method of Long Chen's hands changed, and his mouth vomited divine sound. A violent flame rose to the sky with Long Chen as the core. It was a dragon of fire. At the moment it rose into the sky, the 10,000 laws burst into pieces, and the dragon roared and broke through the sky. The flame dragon is colorful and penetrates the sky. All the chains of order are punctured in an instant, forming a channel. Well, his Great Brahman Sutra has its own prototype. From then on, his moves have their own mark. Heaven and earth Ding Dao. Fire prisoner dragon, dragon dust broke his drink like thunder. While he drank these 4 words, there seemed to be a sacred and solemn chanting sound in heaven and earth. Boom! A huge cage emerged between heaven and earth, which trapped the dragon dust firmly. The flame on the cage rose, and there was a faint flash of dragon patterns. It was exquisite, just like immortal gold. The texture was not condensed by the power of fire at all. Yu Qingchuan's jade hands covered cherry lips, and her beautiful eyes were full of unbelievable looks. What shocked her was not only the horror of the cage, nor the texture of the cage like immortal gold, but the dragon dust didn't need to seal, didn't need to lead, followed her words, and directly summoned the cage. This is the route he chose. He was born for war and lived for destruction. Later, war and destruction are the main melody of his life. Heaven and earth tripod road, the voice of heaven and earth tripod, even with a touch of excitement, it seems that Long Chen chose this road, it did not expect. Dragon dust slowly opened his hands and looked at the cage. With a big hand, the flame cage within a radius of 10,000 miles closed in an instant and burst open. The huge force of fire directly blew the void out of a huge hole. Seeing this scene, a satisfied smile appeared on Long Chen's face. In the Great Brahma Sutra, he finally peeped into the path and found the source of its mystery. One dharma leads to 10,000 dharmas. It seems that he pushed open the door of the new world and saw a new world. Just like the 9-star body formula, he seems to have climbed to a new peak. The world in front of him is completely different from the world he knew before. This is a kind of sublimation, a sublimation that cannot be described in words. Understanding is understanding, not understanding is not understanding, unable to explain. Perhaps, this is the legendary, unspeakable. Thank you very much, sir. Long Chen came to the heaven and earth tripod and was excited. It can be said that this time into the 9-day world, everything depends on the guidance of the heaven and earth tripod. Long Chen will have so much harvest. Long Chen is full of gratitude to the heaven and earth tripod. Between you and me, don't say these polite words. You're a little successful now. What's your plan? Heaven and Earth Ding asked. Please tell me everything. Dragon Dust is very humble. Are you kidding? He needs to make his own decisions to follow the Heaven and Earth tripod? The Heaven and Earth tripod must know where it is good. Now I'll wait for the heaven to come and cross the god's robbery. However, it seems that it still needs some time. You can choose to digest the income or go out for a walk. I can't give you too many opinions. Heaven and Earth Ding Dao. Well, I'm going to go back to the temple. Dragon Dust Road. What are you doing back to the temple? Yu Qingxian asked. I want to try if I can kill the disciples of Brahma. In the eyes of Dragon Dust, a fierce color flashed. www.milovenival.com, the fastest update of the web novel. Chapter 46:27, Roar. A giant beast roared up to the sky, but half of it roared, and a big hand with 7 stars patted on its huge head. Boom! The giant beast's huge body trembled violently and fell to the ground with a plop, stirring up all the dust in the sky. Wow, it's so powerful! Dragon Dust, when did you become so powerful? When Yu Qingxian saw that the dragon dust killed the terrible beast, he couldn't help exclaiming that his beautiful eyes were full of worship. Hey, these are fur. When you have a chance, I'll show you what fur is. Long Chen smiled. Yu Qingxian didn't know what fur meant, but she was really amazed by the blow of Long Chen. This giant beast has a terrible breath, and there are traces of battle on the surrounding earth. Obviously, many strong people have made plans for it, but it can still survive, which shows that its strength is absolutely strong. And the dragon dust easily won it. The appearance of lifting heavy as light completely proves that the strength of dragon dust has made a qualitative leap again. Beautiful, even the heaven and earth tripod also gave an exclamation. Even it had to admit that the understanding of dragon dust was simply abnormal. By fighting with the 9-star disciples, you can not only see the mystery of the 9 stars, but also really control the power of the 9 stars. However, in such a short time, you can send and receive from your heart and control freely. Even in ancient times, it is extremely rare. Dragon dust uses the powerful power of the stars. If the giant beast is directly smashed, the heaven and earth tripod will not be surprised at all, but dragon dust only breaks its crystal core, but does not damage its flesh. This shocked the heaven and earth tripod. You know, the harder the power is, the harder it is to control, especially at the subtle level. It's like an ordinary person trimming his nails with a 100-catty knife. The dragon dust did it, and did it very easily with subtle control, which means that he can control the more violent 9-star power. After killing the beast, Long Chen threw its body into the chaotic space to be absorbed by the black earth. The last time he fought with 9-star disciples, Long Chen consumed countless vitality. Although both Taiyin Wood and Fusang Ancient would have amazing vitality, they still can't bear the consumption. Although there is no sign of withering, they have begun to be listless, especially the flame on them has begun to dim. In the current chaotic space, dragon dust has newly transplanted many precious drugs, and they also need to grow. Therefore, dragon dust needs a large number of corpses. The reason why Longchen controls his power is that he is afraid that if he is not careful, he will smash the giant beast. It will be troublesome to collect it at that time. After the blood essence explodes, a lot of energy will be lost, which is not cost-effective. Put away the precious medicine guarded by the giant beast, but Longchen didn't leave directly, but fell into meditation. Dragon dust, what's the matter? Yu Qingxian asked strangely. This place is too big. If you collect it like this, it will be too slow. Moreover, it's uncertain whether you can meet that guy. Can you think of a way to have the best of both worlds? Dragon dust touched his chin and began to think hard. What are you doing with moths? Seeing this scene, Yu Qingxian smiled. Based on her understanding of Longchen, this guy must be thinking of some bad idea. Senior, can I discuss something with you? Longchen's eyes turned and said to heaven and earth. What are you going to think of? Chen Kuanding also knew dragon dust very well. Seeing his sinister appearance, he knew what he was going to do. Boom. At the temple where Longchen had entered, it suddenly exploded, and a divine light rose into the sky and radiated for 9 days. A divine picture emerged directly above the temple. The God map is spread over the temple, and the divine light flows. You can see it from a very far place. There are countless patterns on the God map. Those patterns look like precious medicine, which are densely covered with the whole God map. Will this work? In a hidden space, Longchen and Yu Qingxian hide in the dark. The voice of heaven and earth ding comes from Longchen's ear. With this thing, you can tempt others to be deceived? It's unreliable. Hey, if you can just try. Besides, even if you can't, we don't have any loss. If we can't cheat, well, grab it. Longchen said with a smile. Just then, the changes here attracted countless figures rushing from all directions. Brahma Holy Land, outsiders are forbidden to approach, otherwise, there is no amnesty for killing. Just then, a cold drink came and rang through the world. With the sound falling as expected, Longchen saw the figure of the man in white. When he saw him, a gloomy smile appeared on the corner of Longchen's mouth. Originally, there were countless strong people here, but after hearing the name of Brahma Holy Land, many people's faces changed slightly, and some people began to retreat. What are you, and dare to speak wildly? I found this treasure map alone. It belongs to me. A cold hum came. A strong man like an iron tower ignored the warning of the man in white and rushed straight to the God map. Ignorant mole and death. The man in white gave a cold drink, but he didn't see his seal. He saw endless fire runes in the void, interwoven into a huge net, and covered the big man head-on. Small broken net, also dare to take it out to make a fool of yourself. The big man sneered, opened his big hand, and a huge axe appeared. The huge axe slashed in his hand, and the void burst open. The power of one blow broke the sky. Obviously, this is an extremely terrible existence. Boom, however, what everyone didn't expect was that when the axe cut on the flame net, the axe burst to pieces. What? The strong people present were all surprised. It is reasonable to say that the silk screen was weak and did not bear any force. It unexpectedly shattered the man's magic army. Bad. When the big man saw that the magic soldiers were broken, he realized that it was bad, turned and ran away. But his speed was obviously slow. The huge net passed through his body. The big man was shocked all over, and then stood quietly on the void. Brahma's power, this guy has mastered it fast enough. Dragon Dust's eyes narrowed, and there was Brahma's will on the screen. No wonder it could easily break the divine soldiers. Obviously, when Longchen passed the 9-star test, he was not idle. This guy has integrated Brahman's circle, and his strength soared. When death passed through the man's body, the man was safe and sound, and people were stunned for a time. Poof! Just then, the man's body suddenly spread out, forming pieces of fist-sized flesh and blood, scattered on the earth. The man was cut into countless pieces like screen-cut tofu. This blow completely deterred all the strong people present. Seeing this scene, countless strong people stepped back one after another, saying that they had no intention of competing for the treasure map. At the same time, countless powerful people came from all directions. They were full of medicine. These people were drug slaves, surrounded the God map and did not allow anyone to approach. The man in white came to the God map, looked at it for a long time, and suddenly shouted excitedly, "Is this the hidden reward left by the master?" "Am not your teacher, am your ancestor." The dragon dust hiding in the dark scolded in his heart. The man in white looked at the god picture for a long time. Suddenly, a bright color appeared on his face. His big hand opened, and a cluster of blood daisies 3 feet high appeared. When he saw the blood daisies, Long Chen couldn't help but his heart beat faster. www.milovenival.com, the fastest update of the web novel. Chapter 46:28. The reason why Long Chen's heart beats faster is not because of how precious the bloody daisy is, but because this guy finally understands his pains. The man in white took out the bloody daisy and waved it with a big hand. The bloody daisy slowly flew out and fell to a pattern in the god picture. "Senior, cooperate well. Don't show your flaws." Dragon dust hurried to the heaven and earth tripod. Buzz. Just when the bloody daisy fell into a pattern on the god map trembled slightly. There was a groove. The daisy fell into it, and it fit perfectly. At the same time, the groove was lit instantly. Originally, there were tens of thousands of patterns on the god map. These patterns are dark. Now, the patterns representing blood daisies are bright. Beautiful, perfectly matched. Dragon dust almost clapped his hands and shouted, "This guy is really fooled? That's stupid." The heaven and earth tripod is full of doubt. Even it is, some can't believe it. The man in white, but a disciple of Brahma, is definitely not a fool. Is he so easily deceived? In fact, it is also stupid. I suspect that there are many disciples of Brahma. The places of trial left by Brahma are different, and the rewards may not be the same. Didn't he just mention hiding rewards? In other words, the rewards they receive are not entirely certain. I took away 2 of his 3 treasures. He must be unwilling. He may even fantasize about whether there are other treasures. Hey, now you understand. Long Chen said with a smile. Good guy, you Terrans are still the most sinister. The heaven and earth tripod was speechless. Long Chen thought through the man in white. Buzzing, buzzing. At this time, the man in white, like a child playing a jigsaw puzzle, took out the precious medicine in his hand, compared it with the pattern on the god map, and then put 1 precious medicine into it to light up each god map. Each time a divine map is lit, the precious medicine will disappear, as if it has been consumed. In fact, all of it has entered the pocket of dragon dust. No, that won't work. You cater to him so much. These tens of thousands of patterns will soon be filled by him. Heaven and earth ding dao. Because at this time, the man in white kept filling the precious medicine into those patterns. The dragon dust made it feel similar in shape, so he passed the test for him. In this way, tens of thousands of patterns were soon lit up by the man in white, while the whole god map had only 36,000 patterns. Once it was full, the lie would be exposed. You can't add patterns temporarily. That's too fake. Hey, it's okay. Listen to me. Long Chen smiled and let the heaven and earth tripod continue to collect all the orders. I have to say that this man in white is really worthy of being a disciple of Brahma. He has a rich family background. Precious medicines are emerging one after another. He keeps lighting up those patterns with different precious medicines. In less than half a day, there were only more than 2,000 patterns lit by him, and Long Chen also harvested more than 30,000 precious medicines. Many of these precious medicines are extremely precious. Long Chen has never seen them before. Long Chen's medicine garden suddenly becomes rich. Don't you think of a way? The heaven and earth tripod warned that there are not many blank god maps now. If you don't think of a way, it's too late. But Long Chen was always confident and let the man in white keep lighting up the pictures and texts. One day later, only 3 patterns remained on the whole god map. At that moment, the white man's face was full of excitement, because he knew that hidden rewards sometimes appeared in the trials given to them by Brahma. The hidden reward determines the probability of occurrence according to personal opportunities, luck, strength, and other factors, just like winning the grand prize. Now, the man in white is in the extreme excitement of winning the grand prize. He sees that there are 3 god pictures that have not been lit. However, the shapes of these 3 patterns are extremely complex. He feels that it is inappropriate to use any precious medicine. As soon as he gritted his teeth, he put a precious medicine into the divine map. The divine map trembled, and the divine medicine disappeared, but the pattern was not lit up. The man in white was stunned. What's the situation? If you light up the failure, the precious medicine will disappear? For a moment he was confused. He had never encountered such a situation in his life and was at a loss. Long Chen and Yu Qingxian, who were hiding in the dark, laughed at the dull face of the man in white, and Yu Qingxian was about to burst into tears. "Oh go. You're really bad. You can think of such bad moves." I'm convinced to. The heaven and earth tripod was speechless for a while. It didn't expect that in the end, Long Chen simply played a rogue trick and confiscated the other party's precious medicine without any explanation. As soon as the man in white gritted his teeth, he kept putting precious drugs that had never been used into the god map, and then watched those precious drugs disappear one by one. What is this? The man in white sent thousands of precious medicines in one breath, and all of them were swallowed up. He was a little anxious. Master, almost. Dragon Dust saw this scene and hurried. Buzz, as a result, when the man in white put another precious medicine, the pattern trembled and was lit up. The man in white shouted excitedly, "The last 2 patterns are left. They will succeed soon. I don't know what treasure master left for me." After excitement, the man in white continued to put precious medicine. As a result, an hour later, his excited face was as long as a donkey's face. This time, he placed many precious medicines he didn't know. He almost put all the precious medicines he hadn't used in his hand, but the pattern didn't respond. Good guy, how fat. Long Chen couldn't help but sigh that there were too many precious drugs in this guy's hand. When Long Chen compared with him, he was like a beggar. "Master, we just got 7 more precious drugs." Just then, a group of drug slaves came running. These 7 precious medicines are the precious medicines they have just killed the giant beast. The first precious medicine is placed on the god map, which lights up when the god map is lit. The man in white, whose face was as long as a donkey, suddenly smiled and blossomed again. Now only the last divine figure has not been lit up. He put the remaining 6 precious medicines directly on the divine map. The divine map didn't respond at all. Of course, it didn't respond. This is the last map. Killing dragon dust won't make it bright. The man in white suddenly shouted, "Friends, who has precious medicine in his hand can exchange it with me for other precious medicine or pills. I am Yu Ziheo, a disciple of Brahma. I promise in the name of my master that I will never let you suffer." The man in white showed his name. When he heard that he was a disciple of Brahma, all the strong people present were moved and were obviously restrained by his identity. As you can see, this is the hidden reward left to me by the master. I urgently need precious medicine to activate the divine map. Now there is only the last divine map left. I hope you can help me. Yu Ziheo is very grateful. Yu Ziheo said in a loud voice. Let the proud Yu Ziheo say the word, "Thank you very much," shows how urgent his mood is. As soon as he said this, the strong people present immediately came over. Seeing this scene, Yu Ziheo smiled on his face. And the moment he smiled, he didn't know that there was someone who smiled more happily than him. Of course, he smiled more insidiously. The heaven and earth tripod sighed and spit out 2 words. Take bamboo shoots, www. Milo Venival. Com, the fastest update of the web novel. Chapter 4629, Dragon Dust. You are so clever. That guy was cheated by you. Yu Qingxian hides in the dark and looks at Yu Ziheo trading precious medicine or pill for other people's precious medicine. He doesn't know that he has been cheated. It's funny to think about it. Hey, I'm not smart, nor is he stupid. In fact, many scams have no technical content. The reason why the other party can take the bait is actually that he has a preconceived idea. I'm just testing it. In fact, I didn't expect that he took the bait so easily, so I don't need to do a lot of foreshadowing. Long Chen said with a smile. Originally, Long Chen also prepared many backhands to deal with Yuzaheo so that he could not see through the scam. As a result, all these were prepared in vain. Dragon Dust, let's discuss something. Heaven and Earth Ding Dao. Elder, you said. You should keep it a secret. I can't afford to lose this man. The Heaven and Earth Tripod sighed. One of the top 10 chaotic artifacts, the supreme existence in the world, has even started the activity of swaggering and cheating. If it is spread, it can't be mixed in the future. Hey, what are you talking about? I made the game all the time. What does it have to do with you? Long Chen smiled. Hearing what Long Chen said, Qian Kuan Ding felt at ease. He was not afraid of bad reputation. He didn't care about it at all. I have to say that Brahma's fame is so great that the strong people present came to deal with Yuzaheo. Some people even took out their precious medicine and gave it to Yuzaheo. In fact, they wanted to have a relationship with Yuzaheo. No way, it's the supreme disciple of God. If they climb the relationship, their family power will soar to the sky. Some strong people who are followers of Brahma spare no effort to help when they hear Yuzaheo's famous name. Therefore, all kinds of precious drugs are constantly invested in the divine map, and Long Chen is very busy. He plants divine drugs into the chaotic space, and the scale of the medicine park is constantly growing. However, in order not to arouse Yuzaheo's doubt, Long Chen asks the Heaven and Earth Tripod to brighten the light of the divine map every time, so that Yuzaheo and others can see the changes of the divine map and create a scene of imminent success for them. 3 days later, not only Yuzaheo's own precious medicine was almost consumed, but also the precious medicine of the strong people present were almost redeemed. Yuzaheo's face changed. At this time, someone reminded him, does this divine map need all the precious drugs guarded by giant beasts around the temple to open together? Hearing the man's reminder, Yuzaheo's face became more ugly. There were countless monsters and even many around the temple. He didn't dare to approach. If so, it would be over. Long Chen was stunned when he heard the man's words. He thought it was a good idea. In this way, they worked hard with those giants. He enjoyed his success. Is there anything better in the world? Just about. Don't be too greedy. Many giant animals here have ancient blood and a large number. Even if they are given 1,000 years, they may not be able to collect them completely. Your time is running out. Don't you see that the whole world has become gloomy? Heaven and Earth Ding Dao. After being reminded by the Heaven and Earth Tripod, Long Chen found that the original clear sky began to become turbid, and the whole world seemed to be shrouded in haze. What happened? Dragon Dust couldn't help asking. The law here began to change, and the chi of chaos became stronger and stronger, which meant that the best time to cross the robbery was coming. It doesn't make any sense for you to spend time with him now. You need to be prepared, and Yuzaheo is obviously aware of the existence of the problem, and he can't afford it, which means that he has no more oil and water to squeeze. Heaven and Earth Ding Dao. According to the Heaven and Earth Tripod, Long Chen has completed an almost impossible feat. It takes no effort to collect so many precious medicines at once. But the precious medicine I want hasn't appeared yet. Dragon Dust is not willing to tunnel. Do you expect to directly collect the formula of China Chongdan from him? Heaven and Earth Ding asked. Yes. What are you thinking? You have raised more than half of the precious medicine of Nekongdan on him now, which is great luck. There are also many precious medicines. Even if you turn over here, you can't find them. You can't hurry about this. The Heaven and Earth Tripod has no good way. You know, the precious medicine collected by Long Chen at this time is already an astronomical number for countless elixirs. Long Chen is not satisfied. He plans to collect the elixir of Nechong Pill directly from Yuzaheo, which makes the Heaven and Earth Tripod speechless. Long Chen is so cruel that he can find a chance to drain Yuzaheo directly. The key is that even if you drain him, it's useless. Well, forget it. Although some unwilling, but there is no way, can only give up. At this time, Yuzaheo's face was ugly and wanted to die. Just like his parents who had just died, he bit his teeth and sent the last dozen precious drugs to the God map. In fact, he has no hope, because it is said that the hidden reward of Brahma is not so easy to take. Even if he is a disciple of Brahma, he must pass the test to get it. Before, someone said that he might have to exhaust all the precious drugs around the temple to open the treasure map. His heart was completely cold at once. The worst thing in the world is that the reward is right in front of you, but you can't get it. Buzz, when Yuzaheo was about to give up, the divine figure suddenly trembled after absorbing the precious medicine. What? At that moment, Yuzaheo and all the strong people present were surprised, and Yuzaheo showed ecstasy on his face. Buzz, at that moment, Yuzaheo's heart jumped wildly. Does this mean that he can get a reward? The divine figure kept folding and rolling, getting smaller and smaller, shrinking from thousands of miles to thousands of miles, then to hundreds of miles, and finally shrinking into a light ball of about 10 feet. The light ball floated slowly in front of Yuzaheo. Yuzaheo knelt down excitedly, put his hands together and shouted in a trembling voice, "Thank you, Master." The light ball trembled slightly, and then a big hand was stretched out inside, slowly probing to Yuzaheo. Yuzaheo also stretched out his hand and slowly welcomed the big hand. Suddenly, the big hand, a strange turn, avoided Yuzaheo's hand and pumped it on Yuzaheo's face. Boom! Yuzaheo flew out like a meteor in the sound of a shocking explosion and bone fragmentation. At that moment, all the strong people present were stunned. Then the light ball slowly disappeared, and a figure appeared inside. When you saw the figure, everyone in the scene shouted with surprise. www.mylovenovel.com, the fastest update of the web novel. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.